Chapter 2403. At the same time, in the mysterious place of the sacred heaven martial sect, the entire world fell silent once more. The incomparably mysterious Feng Dao book that contained the mysteries of the heavens existed quietly in the ancient ravine. That mysterious and strange door suffused with a pale golden brilliance in midair. The silence this time was already completely different from the previous silence. Chen Fenghua could not hear the sound of his own breathing, nor could he hear the sound of his heartbeat. He was suddenly oblivious to the pain all over his body. The current him, was he disappointed? Sad? Sad? Or was he unable to accept it? He seemed to have neither. The instant he touched the life word just now, the instant he was repelled by that majestic power, he had an unprecedented feeling. Seniors, I've disappointed you all. I'm not the person the Feng Dao book is looking for. I'm unable to awaken its artifact spirit. Chen Fenghua only came back to his senses after a while. He bowed in unison towards Emperor Zi Hao and the other big shots. In his heart there were still some fluctuations in the end. Disappointment, guilt, all a little. Child, you've already done very well. This isn't your problem. Emperor Zi Hao reacted and patted Chen Fenghua's shoulder, his voice a little hoarse. Young friend Chen, your injuries are serious. Recover well first. Another big shot immediately opened his mouth, and said when he saw the wounds all over Chen Fenghua's body. All right. Chen Fenghua bowed to the various big shots again before sitting down cross-legged to heal his injuries. That feeling of pain, that feeling of exhaustion, all came back in a swirl of dust at this time. Emperor Zi Hao and the other big shots looked at him, and could not help sucking in a deep breath. They clenched their fists, their expressions heavy. The atmosphere between heaven and earth became oppressive because of their emotions. They waited for so long and really never thought that it would actually be like this in the end. They did not hide the vast majority of things from Chen Fenghua. Right now, the natural treasures consumed by the Feng Dao book every year was an extremely horrifying number, increasing year by year. The Feng Dao book's artifact spirit had indeed been asleep for too long. If it continued, it would definitely create the source. But now, their only hope was completely destroyed. The few big shots fell silent. No one spoke. Only after no idea how long had passed did Emperor Zi Hao let out a deep sigh. He took out a ball of golden light from his storage bag and said in a low voice, Big Brother Tian, are you there? Soon, a golden light shone, and the voice of the spirit of the celestial pole list came from inside. What's wrong? Was it a success? I'm coming over right now. Emperor Zi Hao was silent for a while before slowly saying, Big Brother Tian, you don't need to come over. Chen Fenghua he didn't succeed. As soon as he said this, the golden light began to tremble violently. Emperor Zi Hao didn't need to think to know what the spirit of the celestial pole list was feeling right now. Although the spirit of the celestial pole list wasn't waiting here with them this time, the spirit of the celestial pole list regarded this matter more seriously than them. This fluctuation lasted for several hundred breaths of time before a furious roar came from within. You failed? How could he have failed? Little Purple, don't joke with me. Otherwise, don't blame me for falling out with you. Emperor Zi Hao smiled bitterly and said, Big Brother Tian, how can I possibly joke with you about this kind of thing? The spirit of the celestial pole list sucked in a deep breath, the fury in its voice seemingly about to erupt all at once. How can he possibly fail? Didn't the book guardian say it? Wasn't the number one of the all-eras martial meet this time the fated person that the artifact spirit needs? Why can't it work now? Is it playing with us here? Emperor Zi Hao rubbed his eyebrows and said, looking at the current situation, it indeed deceived us. The spirit of the celestial pole list laughed from extreme anger. Good, good, good. A mere bookkeeper actually dared to deceive me and make me run around in circles. You all wait here for me, I'll rush over right now. Even if I hurt Feng Daoshu, I'll also drag it out today and make it die a horrible death. The temperature of the entire world seemed to suddenly drop to freezing point because of these words. Empyrean Zhao did not make a sound. Although he felt that this was inappropriate, the joke that the book guardian played with them this time was seriously too big. Right at this time, a hoarse voice suddenly sounded out from Feng Daoshu, "Your Excellency Heaven Pole Proclamation, Empyreans, this score, you all can't count it on me." This voice was extremely weak, as if it would completely dissipate at any time. "Book Guardian, you still have the face to come out?" The spirit of the celestial pole list's icy cold voice sounded out between heaven and earth. The cold gazes of Empyrean Zhao and the rest of the big shots also looked towards where Feng Daoshu was in unison. "Your Excellencies, you all calm down first. This old man's voice is spreading out now, breaking the taboo. If it scares this old man will probably be destroyed." The book guardian said unhurriedly. "Calm down? How do you want me to calm down?" The spirit of the celestial pole list's voice became increasingly icy cold. The gazes of Empyrean Zhao and the rest of the big shots also became increasingly cold. "Your Excellencies, please don't misunderstand. From the beginning to the end, I have never lied to you all. Whatever the artifact Spirit Lord said to me, I have conveyed word for word to all of you. Furthermore, what's the point of me lying to all of you?" The book guardian's tone was rather helpless. "If that's the case, why didn't Chen Fenghua succeed?" The spirit of the celestial pole list's tone did not change at all. "If they did not get a good result today, the book guardian would have to sacrifice to the heavens. Your Excellencies, I think all of you have misunderstood. The artifact Spirit Lord said that the fated person will appear at this all-eras martial meet, but it did not say that the fated person will definitely be first in the all-eras martial meet." The book guardian said. The spirit of the celestial pole list and the rest were all stunned. Thinking about it carefully, the book guardian's original words to them seemed to be the same. However, all along, they had subconsciously believed that the fated person would definitely be first in the all-eras martial meet. "Your Excellencies, something special happened during the exam this time. Logically speaking, Chen Fenghua should not be first." The book guardian said. "Chen Fenghua is not first? You mean?" The spirit of the celestial pole list, Empyrean Zhao, and the rest of the big shots instantly felt like a bolt of lightning had struck their mind. That's right. There was a shocking change in the exam this time. Back then, Lin Xiaoji had defied the natural order and led Chen Fenghua step by step. However, when the rare phenomenon of the 9 stars descending all life was about to appear and Lin Xiaoji was about to take first place, the rare phenomenon that Lin Xiaoji had triggered suddenly disappeared. They had thought that Lin Xiaoji had not comprehended the crucial step at that time. Your Excellencies, you must have thought that the child had not comprehended the most crucial step. However, in reality that was not the case. At that level, he no longer needed to comprehend anything. He only needed to take a light step forward to push open the door and trigger the 9 stars descending all life. However, he stopped. I even asked him repeatedly, but he only said sorry and left in the end. Otherwise, Chen Fenghua wouldn't have been able to get first place. The book guardian said regretfully. It's actually like that? The spirit of the celestial pole list, Empyrean Zhao, and the rest of the big shots were all shocked. They indeed did not expect that Lin Xiaoji's martial talent was actually above Chen Fenghua's. First place was given up by Lin Xiaoji. If there was such a thing, why didn't you tell us earlier? The spirit of the celestial pole list reacted and shouted sternly. Your Excellency of the celestial pole list, please don't be angry at me. I was the same as you guys at that time. I also thought that the first place of the all-eras martial meet was the fated person to confer the book. That child, no matter what the reason was, voluntarily gave up first place. Then he was not first place. I thought that all of this was fate. The book guardian said rather aggrievedly. The spirit of the celestial pole list, Emperor Z How and the rest of the big shots. The spirit of the celestial pole list sucked in a deep breath. The anger in its heart originally disappeared without a trace. It was even somewhat excited. Really didn't expect that everything would actually be like this. Lin Xiaoji, this brat really brought me too many surprises. If it's now, then that also means the artifact's spirit of conferring the Tao book is extremely likely to be him. The book guardian nodded and said, I feel that it's definitely him. The fated person to confer the Tao book, no matter what, is bound to also be in existence with unparalleled martial talent. In this assessment, the other people's martial talent compared to that child and Chun Fenghua are not on the same level at all. There's no way to compare at all. The spirit of the celestial pole list nodded repeatedly. That's right, you're right. Then it's definitely him. Haha, really didn't expect that there's actually a glimmer of hope at the end of the tunnel. Hearty laughter reverberated throughout the entire world. Phew. Emperor Z How and the rest of the authorities let out relieved sighs with overjoyed faces. However, it's still too early for us to celebrate. Otherwise, the greater the expectation, the greater the disappointment. The spirit of the celestial pole list soon calmed its thoughts. It was a spirit that rarely lost its temper. It especially hated the feeling of being enraged. That's right. Brother Tian, our priority now is to find Lin Xiaoji and bring him back. Emperor Z How and the rest of the authorities blurted out. I'll try to find out where he is now. The spirit of the celestial pole list said. A few moments later, it began to murmur to itself, did the kid go to the Xinjiang Taoism faction in the 21st small immortal realm? Is he trying to break through at the immortal transformation pond? It then said to Emperor Z How and the rest of the authorities, I'll head to the 21st small immortal realm now. Wait here. It suddenly recalled something. It said calmly, by the way, you should look into it too. See if there's any way to teach the guardian a lesson without harming him. Emperor Z How and the rest of the authorities nodded and agreed. The guardian was left speechless. Meanwhile, the 21st small immortal realm, the Earth-level area of the immortal transformation pond. Senior Mingqiu, Ji Xian, don't worry, I've already contacted Senior Long Ru. Qin Nan transmitted his voice. That's great. Mingqiu and Ji Xian let out relieved sighs. They knew Lin Xiaoji could ask Heaven Highness Long Ruo for help. With the help of a Heaven Highness, they should be able to resolve the danger. Cultivator, I'm afraid I'm going to have to disappoint you this time. I can't protect your friend with my current strength. Taoist Feng Yu transmitted her voice to Mingqiu helplessly. Patriarch Feng, you don't have to blame yourself. It's great that you're here. We'll settle it ourselves. Mingqiu hurriedly replied. Hearing these words, Taoist Feng Yu felt even more ashamed. She said solemnly, Cultivator, although I can't protect your friend, now that I'm here, I'll definitely ensure that you guys won't suffer any other harm. After saying that, she looked at Elder Hong Yi and the rest and said, There's no problem with you guys capturing this person. But before Empyrean Sword River returns, you can't make a move on this person. How about it? Elder Hong Yi and the rest of the elders frowned. Don't make a move on Lin Xiaoji? But what they promised Empyrean Sword River previously wasn't like this. That, since Patriarch Feng has spoken, then we'll... Elder Hong Yi thought about it and still chose to take a step back. At that time, Empyrean Sword River definitely wouldn't be angry with them over such a small matter. However, before he could finish speaking, an ice-cold voice suddenly sounded from afar. Not making a move? That's impossible. Hong Yi, you guys quickly make a move and heavily injure this kid. Break all of his arms and legs. A young man in red armor with 3 ancient longswords on his back and a face full of scars flew over from the distance. The young man's aura was only in the greater success stage of the Master Realm. Yu Lin, is this your idea or your master's? Taoist Feng Yu said. It's my master's idea and mine too. Elder Hong Yi, Aren't you going to do it? Yulin shouted sternly. All right, we'll do it now. Elder Hong Yi and the rest of the elders immediately collected their thoughts. Their auras soared into the sky once again. Wait! Taoist Feng Yu yelled. He stared at Yulin and said, Yulin, can you please transmit a message to Senior Jianhe? I've made a great promise in the past, so I have no choice but to help them. I hope he can give me some face. I'll be very grateful. To be able to say such words, he was already under immense pressure. Yulin looked at him coldly and said, If Patriarch Feng Yu says so, I'll transmit the message. 3 breaths later, Yulin suddenly realized something. His lips curled upward as he said, Patriarch Feng Yu, I'm sorry, my master said. Chapter 2404. Taoist Feng Yu's expression instantly became incomparably ugly. He never thought that the other party would actually not give him face and even say it so bluntly. This was clearly Heavenly Venerate Sword River. He really did not take him seriously at all. However, anger was anger. Taoist Feng Yu still felt a sense of helplessness in his heart. A Heavenly Venerate Big Shot was ultimately a Heavenly Venerate Big Shot, the top existence in the entire primary upper world. Even though the Peak Ruler Realm was only a step away from Heavenly Venerate, the difference between the two could be said to be a world of difference. However, in the next breath, Taoist Feng Yu's eyes became sharp and was not completely devoured by that sense of helplessness. He already did not fulfill that promise. If he could not even do such a thing, then his promise back then would be a complete joke. Since Senior Sword River is unwilling to give me face, then there's nothing to say. However, you guys can capture him, but you must not make a move on him. If you guys insist on making a move, then step over my dead body. Taoist Feng Yu shouted sternly and summoned an immortal sword from his storage bag. Sword intent surged into the cloud. He wanted to protect Qin Nan to the death. Very good, Sect Master Feng Yu. I didn't expect that you would actually dare to do such a thing for an outsider. Since that's the case, then there's nothing to say. Elder Hong Yi, you guys hurry up and attack, Yulin said with a cold face. When Elder Hong Yi and the rest of the elders saw this, they all felt troubled. Heavenly Venerate Sword River could ignore Taoist Feng Yu, but they could not. If Taoist Feng Yu really became the sect master in the future, they would not be able to deal with it. Elder Hong Yi, my master said that no matter what happens, he will bear all of it. If Taoist Feng Yu finds trouble with you guys in the future, my master will come forward and settle it for you guys. You guys can rest assured. After saying this, Yulin sent a voice transmission to Elder Hong Yi and the rest, saying, After this matter is settled, my master will definitely give you guys an extremely great opportunity. The eyes of Elder Hong Yi and the rest lit up immediately. A Heavenly Venerate of a generation saying that it was an extremely great opportunity was extraordinary. Wind Sect Master, sorry for the offense. Elder Hong Yi and the other elders cupped their fists at Taoist Feng Yu without any hesitation. Waves of shocking auras locked onto Taoist Feng Yu. Then let's fight. Taoist Feng Yu released the power of laws within his body and prepared to strike. Right at this instant, an unexpected event occurred. They could only see a dragon-shaped badge inside Qin Nan's storage bag emitting a brilliant purple-golden glow, which broke free from the storage bag and transformed into a magnificent figure before the crowd. An incomparably shocking pressure swept out in all directions like a storm, causing the hearts of all the cultivators present to tremble as they felt a boundless pressure. How dare you! The majestic figure let out a roar like a shocking clap of thunder, causing the ears of the elders to buzz, causing the water in the pond to surge violently. Long, Heavenly Sovereign Long Rua? Elder Hong Ye's pupils shrank. In the past, he had met Empyrean Long Rua by chance in a certain secret place. What? Empyrean Long Rua? The expressions of the other elders changed simultaneously. Empyrean Long Rua was a top-tier Empyrean who was ranked very high among the Empyrean giants. He was much stronger than Emperor Jianhe. How dare you touch the people under my protection? Do you not want to stay in the primary upper realm anymore? Emperor Long Rua looked down at the crowd and spoke in an extremely domineering manner, causing Elder Hong Yi and the other elders to turn pale. Yu Lin, who was full of vigor earlier, also trembled slightly and weakened imperceptibly. Taoist Feng Yu stared at this scene in a daze. He had never expected that these few youngsters would be able to get a giant like Emperor Long Rua to step in. It seemed like the other party was not being courteous when he said that there was no relationship between them. He was truly confident. Long Rua. Right at this moment, an ethereal voice seemed to have crossed the endless void and resounded in everyone's ears. Following that, a powerful aura descended from the sky. An old man with long white hair and a face full of wrinkles appeared before the crowd. An even more terrifying aura was emitted from the old man's body. Even Emperor Long Rua's aura was suppressed instantly. It was like a mountain floating in front of a tree. Emperor Long Rua had descended with his will. However, this old man had come in person. Greetings, Sect Master. Yu Lin, Elder Hong Yi, and the others were overjoyed as they quickly cupped their fists and bowed. The white-haired old man in front of them was the current sect master of the Xinjiang Orthodoxy, Emperor Wan Luo. In the primary upper realm, he was a top-tier existence that was not weaker than Emperor Long Rua. Emperor Wan Luo nodded slightly. After glancing at Qin Nan and the others, he looked at Emperor Long Rua and said indifferently, Long Rua, there is no grudge between you and the Xinjiang Orthodoxy. Therefore, I will not hold it against you for trespassing in the Xinjiang Orthodoxy and give you face. The eyes of Qin Nan, Ji Xian, Mingchu progenitor, and the others shuddered upon hearing the words. It was obvious that Emperor Jianhe had already expected Qin Nan to ask Emperor Long Rua to come. As such, he had already notified Emperor Wan Luo and asked the Xinjiang Orthodoxy to stand on Emperor Jianhe's side. As such, they were in great trouble. Wan Luo, are you sure you want to help Emperor Jianhe? Emperor Long Rua let out a hollow laugh. Long Rua, I don't want to repeat what I just said. You should leave at once so as not to damage the relationship between us. Emperor Wan Luo said calmly. Ha ha ha! At that instant, a burst of laughter could be heard. Flames burst out of the dragon-shaped badge in Qin Nan's storage bag and turned into a magnificent figure standing beside Emperor Long Rua. Another Emperor? The hearts of everyone present were shaken. Yanming? Even Emperor Wan Luo's eyes flickered. Wan Luo, you and I are considered friends. This Jianhe is just a stray dog that doesn't have any sense of belonging to his own sect. Are you sure you want to stand on his side? Emperor Flame asked with a smile. Are the two of you sure you want to protect Lin Xiaoji? Emperor Wan Luo did not answer. He asked in return. Ha ha ha, Long Rua and I have already sent our wills here. Of course we will protect him. Wan Luo, Lin Xiaoji is someone that Long Rua and I have high hopes for. If it wasn't because he was unwilling, we would have accepted him as our successor. Therefore, why don't you give us some face this time and not hold it against the junior? Long Rua and I will surely thank you when the time comes. Emperor Flame said with a smile. The atmosphere at the scene became quiet. Emperor Wan Luo frowned. He had taken the risk of offending Emperor Long Rua because Emperor Jianhe had given him a lot of benefit. However, Yanming and Long Rua had come together. Besides, Lin Xiaoji held a high position in their hearts. If he continued to help Emperor Jianhe, he would be offending both Yanming and Long Rua. Yu Lin, Elder Hong Yi, and the others did not dare to breathe loudly after seeing this. Taoist Feng Yu withdrew his aura too. They had nothing to do with the matter now that it had come to this. They had no right to be involved. At that instant, a badge in Emperor Wan Luo's storage ring suddenly emitted a thought. It was from Emperor Jianhe. Emperor Wan Luo glanced at it and was startled. Who would have thought that Emperor Jianhe would be willing to take out that thing just to get his revenge on Lin Xiaoji? Emperor Wanluo was overjoyed. He immediately made up his mind. He was willing to take in Emperor Jianhe not only because of Emperor Jianhe's cultivation, but also because he was eager to get his hands on the thing that Emperor Jianhe had. He had been thinking of ways to persuade Emperor Jianhe. He had never thought that such a small matter would help him achieve his goal. I'm sorry, Jianhe is a member of the Xinjiang Taoism system. How can we let him go now that his son's murderer is here? Yanming, you and Long Ruo should leave now. Don't make things worse. Emperor Wanluo said expressionlessly. Emperor Long Ruo and Yanming squinted. They immediately guessed that Emperor Jianhe must have promised Emperor Wanluo something shocking. Otherwise, Emperor Wanluo wouldn't have reacted in such a manner. Emperor Jianhe was a member of the Xinjiang Taoism system? Wanluo, if that's the case, I won't waste my breath on you. If your Xinjiang Taoism system dares to touch Lin Xiaoji today, Yanming and I won't let your Xinjiang Taoism system go. Emperor Long Ruo's aura changed rapidly. It became extremely cold. Emperor Yanming harumphed coldly too. A strong murderous aura burst out of his body. In an instant, the formless atmosphere became tense and surged, causing everyone present to feel an extremely great pressure. Lin Xiaoji, don't you worry, Yanming and I are on our way. We will surely save you when the time comes. Emperor Long Ruo did not forget to transmit his voice to Qin Nan. Thank you, seniors. Qin Nan said. Won't let our Xinjiang Taoism system go? Long Ruo, Yanming, how bold of you! If that's the case, there's no need for me to show you any mercy. Emperor Wanluo's eyes turned cold. He unleashed the terrifying Heaven Highness force in his body. His aura skyrocketed too, causing the water within a few 100,000 li to ripple vigorously. The cultivators in the earth-ranked area and even the heaven-ranked area were startled. They immediately scanned the place with their divine sense. The wrath of a Heaven Highness had changed the color of the sky. Qin Nan, this is bad. Mingchu progenitor wore a stern look. Long Ruo and Yanming were only a wisp of their will. There was no way they could stop Emperor Wanluo. Besides, even if Long Ruo and Yanming were here, they were still in the Xinjiang Taoism system. They were in someone else's territory. Even if Emperor Wanluo was determined, Long Ruo and Yanming would not be able to save them. Brother Lin, don't you worry, I'll look for them now, Ji Xian said while clenching his teeth. He had no choice but to ask his brother Ji Tsong for help. If Ji Tsong was involved too, it would not be a problem. Qin Nan, we can use our understanding of this era as information to ask Emperor Long Ruo and Emperor Yanming to find more Heaven Highness realm authorities to resolve the crisis. Mingchu progenitor quickly transmitted his voice as the thought crossed his mind. Qin Nan wore a stern expression. This time the mistake he made was really too big. He could have easily resolved the problem, but it had escalated to such a stage. Qin Nan took a deep breath and quickly recalled what kind of fortunate encounters would appear in the primary upper realm in the next few months. What would happen to the Blue Dome? Die. Emperor Wanluo made his move without any hesitation. A giant palm slammed down at Emperor Long Ruo and Emperor Yanming like an ancient, immortal mountain. Heavenly Venerate Long Ruo and Heavenly Venerate Yanming wore cold expressions as they burned their wills to contend against it. A great battle was about to break out. In the nick of time, an imperious, ancient voice exploded above the crowd's head. Wanluo, how dare you! Stop it at once! Every word was uttered. Everyone at the scene was stunned. This power, could it be that it was a third Emperorian powerhouse? He called 3 Heaven Highnesses here? Emperor Wanluo was startled. He never thought Lin Xiaoji, who was only a ruler in the greater success stage, would have such a shocking connection. 3 Heaven Highnesses, compared to that thing, Emperor Wan Luo quickly weighed the pros and cons. In less than a breath, he made up his mind. He had to stand on Emperor Jianhe's side no matter what. He had already said those words. If he changed his mind now, it would be a disgrace to him and the Xinyang Taoism system. On top of that, if he was involved in the thing that Emperor Jianhe was talking about, his strength would improve tremendously. With his current realm, increasing his strength was harder than ascending to the heavens. You're asking me to stop? Don't even think about it. We're in the Xinyang Taoism system, not somewhere else. I don't care how many heaven highnesses you have here, Lin Xiaoji will be handed over to Emperor Jianhe. I won't give anyone face. Emperor Wan Luo retorted firmly. Oh? Is that so? The voice said again. Then, a bright white light shone in front of everyone and slowly condensed into a figure. Wan Luo, are you not going to give me face too? The person who came asked indifferently with an expressionless face. You are. Chapter 2405. A Senior on the Celestial Pole Roll? Apart from Yu Lin, everyone at the scene recognized the figure. At that moment, Taoist Feng Yu, Elder Hong Yi, and the others were all astonished. They could not believe their eyes. They weren't the only ones. Even Heavenly Venerate Long Ruo and Heavenly Venerate Yenming were the same. Why was the spirit of the celestial pole list here? Could it be Wan Luo? I'm here to take Lin Xiaoji away. According to what you said earlier, I'm not allowed to take her away, right? The spirit of the celestial pole list asked calmly. You're really here for Lin Xiaoji? Everyone present was even more shocked when they heard this. They all looked at Qin Nan in disbelief. Everyone knew that the spirit of the celestial pole list had never participated in the disputes of any faction or the grudges between cultivators. No matter who was right or wrong, good or evil, it was like a bystander, quietly watching everything. Over the years, the spirit of the celestial pole list had only interfered in matters that could be counted on one's fingers. What kind of background did this Lin Xiaoji have? How could he even ask the spirit of the celestial pole list to help him? Brother Lin, you've hidden yourself too well. When did you have such a good relationship with the spirit of the celestial pole list? Ji Xian couldn't help but ask. The shock on his face had yet to fade. Qin Nan was confused. He didn't have a deep relationship with the spirit of the celestial pole list. Senior on the celestial pole list, there's no such thing. If you want to take Lin Xiaoji away, our Xinyang orthodoxy will definitely not stop you. Heavenly Venerate Wan Luo reacted and broke out in cold sweat. This was a stark contrast to his attitude towards Heavenly Venerate Long Ruo and Heavenly Venerate Yenming. Indeed, Heavenly Venerate Wan Luo could ignore Heavenly Venerate Long Ruo and Heavenly Venerate Yenming for the item that Heavenly Venerate Jianhe wanted. He could even ignore the three Heavenly Venerate. However, how could he dare to ignore the Heavens Pole leaderboard? It wasn't an exaggeration to say that a single word from the spirit of the celestial pole list could cause an unprecedented calamity to befall their Xinyang orthodoxy. After all, there were countless powerhouses who had received the favor of the heavenly pole leaderboard for countless years. Furthermore, the celestial pole list itself was extremely terrifying. If the spirit of the celestial pole list claimed to be second in the great upper realm, who would dare claim to be first? Senior, I really didn't know that Lin Xiaoji was the one you chose. Otherwise, no matter how bold this junior is, this junior would never dare to find trouble with him. This time, this junior was deceived by a villain and made a big mistake. I hope Senior won't take it to heart. Exalted Celestial Lord Wan Luo hurriedly said, his face filled with regret. He really wasn't faking this kind of regret. If he had known that Qin Nan had such a relationship with the spirit of the celestial pole list, no matter how great the benefits Empyrean Sword River gave him, he would never have found trouble with Qin Nan. Since you've realized your mistake, then I won't take it to heart. The spirit of the celestial pole list nodded expressionlessly, then looked at Qin Nan and said, Lin Xiaoji, come with me. I have something to talk to you about. Qin Nan was puzzled and said, Senior, you. Seeing his expression, the spirit of the celestial pole list simply waved its hand and a majestic force descended, sucking Qin Nan into it. I don't want anyone else to know what happened here. I still have something to do, so I'll take my leave first. You guys take the initiative to swear the master's oath. After the spirit of the celestial pole list said this, it disappeared on the spot without even looking at the crowd. The entire pool was silent and the atmosphere was strange. Especially Yu Lin, Taoist Feng Yu, Elder Hong Yi, and the others. They only felt that everything that had just happened was like a dream. A great battle was about to take place, but everything returned to normal in less than 10 breaths' time. Heavenly Venerate Long Ruo and Heavenly Venerate Yenming were the first to react. They exchanged glances with one another and saw the joy in each other's eyes. They already knew that Qin Nan was extraordinary, but they never thought the spirit of the celestial pole list would be supporting Qin Nan. It was truly worth it for them to come here. No wonder Lin Xiaoji knew about the Blue Dome. The two heavenly venerates murmured. He Wanluo, you've made the right decision this time. I believe the other heavenly venerates of Sun Luo Orthodoxy will surely praise you. Since it's over, we won't stay any longer. Farewell. Heavenly Venerate Long Ruo and Heavenly Venerate Yenming said with a smile before their figures dissipated. Normally, they would seize the opportunity to mock Heavenly Venerate Wan Luo to vent their frustrations. However, they still had to thank Heavenly Venerate Wan Luo. If it wasn't for him, the situation would not have escalated to this extent. They would not have been able to show their attitude in person and make Lin Xiaoji owe them a huge favor. Ha! Didn't you want to fight? Why aren't you saying anything now? Come on, keep it up. Senior Mingqiu and I are Lin Xiaoji's brothers. You can do whatever you want to us. I promise I won't fight back. I won't move a single step. Ji Xian collected his thoughts. He glanced at Yu Lin, Elder Hong Yi, and the others and burst out laughing. Yu Lin, Elder Hong Yi, and the others turned pale. They could already imagine what kind of punishment they were going to receive. Humph! A bunch of bullies. I'm too lazy to talk to you. Ji Xian curled his lips and thought of something. He picked up a token and sent a voice transmission excitedly. Gu Fei, hurry up and come to Brother Lin. We can take advantage of the situation. Oh no, we can have a good chat with the Sinyang Orthodoxy. An hour later, at the mysterious place of the Sacred Heaven Martial Sect, whoosh, the spirit of the celestial pole list appeared in the air. He waved his sleeve and Qin Nan appeared too. Senior, why are you looking for me this time? What is this place? Senior Zihao? Qin Nan asked as soon as he appeared. However, he soon discovered that he arrived inside a wondrous small world. Furthermore, not far away from him was precisely Empyrean Zihao. In addition to that, the people around Heavenly Venerate Zihao had terrifying energy in their bodies. They were definitely Heavenly Venerate. Seeing this, Qin Nan immediately realized that something shocking must have happened. Kid, I have something to ask you. Why did you suddenly give up at the crucial moment of the 5th round? You should know that if you had pushed forward slightly, you would have won first place in the Eternal Martial Gathering. The spirit of the celestial pole list asked. Senior, I'm sorry. I can't tell you the reason. Qin Nan wore a wry smile. Fine, I won't ask you. The spirit of the celestial pole list rolled his eyes. Cultivator Lin, I've invited you here because of something important. You should turn around and take a look. Heavenly Venerate Zihao said. Qin Nan immediately turned around. He soon saw Chen Fenghua recuperating at the edge of the cliff, a mysterious ancient path floating in the air, and a magical door. At the same time, he also saw that at the bottom of the cliff, there was an indescribable ancient book lying there. This book is, Qin Nan was startled. An incomparably mysterious feeling spread in his heart. Everything in his bones seemed to become impulsive. He subconsciously wanted to get close to this book, touch it, and understand it. The spirit of the celestial pole list, Heaven Highness Zi Hao, and the rest exchanged glances with one another. They could see the joy in each other's eyes. Heaven Highness Zi Hao coughed and said, "Cultivator Lin, this book is the treasure of the sacred martial sect, the Book of Tao Bestowment." This time, in the fifth test of the All-Eras Martial Gathering, the reason why it was invited was because Heaven Highness Zi Hao told Qin Nan what he had told Chen Fenghua. The truth of the matter was still concealed by them. "So, you asked me to," Qin Nan had a vague guess in his heart. "That's right, just as you thought," Chen Fenghua failed. "He's not the fated person that the Book of Tao Bestowment is waiting for. After learning that you gave up on the first place through the bookkeeper, we deduced that you're the one that the Book of Tao Bestowment is waiting for." Heaven Highness Zi Hao said in a deep voice, "Cultivator Lin, this is a serious matter. I hope you can help us awaken the artifact spirit." The spirit of the celestial pole list added, "Kid, if you can awaken the artifact spirit, I'll give you a great opportunity." Qin Nan was stunned for a few seconds before he reacted. He said seriously, "Seniors, the Book of Tao Bestowment is a treasure of the martial path. If it's damaged, it'll be damaging to the martial path of the entire world. If this junior is able to help, then I will definitely not refuse. I just don't know what this junior should do." The spirit of the celestial pole list said with admiration, "You just need to walk toward the Book of Tao Bestowment." Qin Nan took a deep breath and calmed his mind. After sending a thought to Ji Xian and the others, he said, "There's no time to lose. I'll go over now." After saying that, he flew in a flash and arrived in front of the Book of Tao Bestowment. The Book of Tao Bestowment seemed to have sensed something. The light it released became brighter and engulfed Qin Nan. "We'll have to wait another month to know the result." Heaven Highness Zi Hao sighed and sat down cross-legged. However, he didn't have any complaints in his heart. As long as there was hope, it was worth waiting. "Isn't it just a month? What's the big deal? Go get some chess pieces. I haven't practiced with you guys in a long time. I don't know if your standards have declined." The spirit of the celestial pole list also sat down cross-legged. "Brother Tian, you're going to wait here too?" Heaven Highness Zi Hao and the rest of the authorities looked at Qin Nan in astonishment. It didn't seem like the spirit of the celestial pole list's usual style. "Yeah, I can't wait any longer. Even though everything is pointing to this kid and there shouldn't be any problem, it's already happened once. I won't feel at ease until I see the result." The spirit of the celestial pole list shook its head and said. Meanwhile, the Book of Tao Bestowment suddenly spoke with a hoarse and weak voice, "Senior, don't worry, it won't be a problem this time." The spirit of the celestial pole list squinted. "Tisk, you're still here? Zi Hao, I asked you to find a way to deal with the Book of Tao Bestowment. Have you found it?" The Book of Tao Bestowment was speechless. He had slipped away. He couldn't afford to offend him. Time trickled by. Ji Xian, Gu Fei and ancestor Mingqiu, who were far away in the Xinjiang Orthodoxy, were completely worshipped by the Xinjiang Orthodoxy because of Qin Nan. They were overjoyed. As for what happened to Qin Nan, they had completely forgotten about it. It was also worth mentioning that when Heaven Highness Jianhe was about to arrive at the Xinjiang Orthodoxy, the Xinjiang Orthodoxy suddenly announced that Heaven Highness Jianhe and his expulsion from the Orthodoxy had nothing to do with the Xinjiang Orthodoxy anymore, which made Heaven Highness Jianhe completely confused. He asked his disciples and the elders, but they all stammered. Even though they promised great benefits, he had no idea what had happened. He only knew that Lin Xiaoji was safe and sound. Heaven Highness Jianhe wasn't stupid. He instantly felt a chill run down his spine. Soon, a day had passed. In this mysterious small world, The spirit of the celestial pole roll held all the white chess pieces in his hands as he fought against celestial venerable Zi Hao in the other big shot. He was extremely happy as he fought with relish. Ha ha ha, I won again. Zi Hao, you old man, you've regressed a lot over the years. You're too weak. The spirit of the celestial pole roll placed a piece down and couldn't help but laugh heartily. Heaven Highness Zi Hao's lips twisted. A chess game like this required an understanding of the heavens and earth, all living beings, and the great Tao. In this world, apart from the undying cycle mountain, what else could possibly have a better understanding of the heavens and earth, all living beings, and the great Tao than the Heaven Highness leaderboard formed by the primordial origin force? However, right at that moment, the Feng Daoshu that had been incomparably quiet all this time suddenly emitted a monstrous light that soared into the sky. Countless golden words were unleashed and landed on the ground, transforming into immortal mountains, rivers, ancient trees, and other things. The authorities of the spirit of the celestial pole list glanced at it. Zi Hao, tell me, how long has it been since Chen Fenghua triggered such a rare phenomenon? The spirit of the celestial pole list stared at Feng Daoshu. If I'm not mistaken, it should be 10 days. Heaven Highness Zi Hao's voice trembled slightly. I'm done playing. The spirit of the celestial pole list became energetic. It smashed a few chess tables into pieces with a slap and rose to its feet. It placed its hands behind its back and stared ahead. Heaven Highness Zi Hao and the rest of the authorities lost interest in the game. They followed the spirit of the celestial pole list on both sides. Time continued to trickle by. In the next 2 hours, the authorities of the spirit of the celestial pole list and the rest of the authorities saw rare phenomena taking place between the heavens and earth. Another day had passed. They were holding their breaths without realizing it. The rare phenomenon that Lin Xiaoji triggered was the same rare phenomenon that Chen Fenghua had triggered a month ago. In other words, Lin Xiaoji was about to step onto the ancient path like Chen Fenghua. Meanwhile, Chen Fenghua, who had been in seclusion to treat his injuries, had fully recovered from his injuries. His mind and soul were no longer in great pain. He gradually woke up. This is Chapter 2406. Lin Xiaoji? Chen Fenghua quickly recognized the figure. Lin Xiaoji had left the deepest impression on him during the All-Eras martial gathering, because at the end of the All-Eras martial meet, he had heard from others that Lin Xiaoji had almost triggered the phenomenon of the 9 stars descending on all life before him. Thus, he had firmly engraved Lin Xiaoji's name in his heart. Originally, he had planned to look for Lin Xiaoji after everything was over and have a good discussion about martial arts. Now that Lin Xiaoji had appeared here, it must be because he had failed. Therefore, the various authorities had come to find Lin Xiaoji to test their strength. He has already arrived on the ancient path? Chen Fenghua quickly realized the crux of the problem. He vaguely remembered that he had only spent 2 or 3 days to recover from his injuries. Didn't this mean that Lin Xiaoji had only used 2 or 3 days to achieve what he had spent a whole month to do? You're awake? How are your injuries? Do you need our help? The spirit of the celestial pole list sensed something and turned to ask with a smile. Thank you for your concern, Senior. My body is fine now. Chen Fenghua stood up and clasped his fists together. You don't have to be so courteous with me. The spirit of the celestial pole list smiled and shook its head. It looked at Lin Xiaoji, who was walking toward the magical door on the ancient path, and said, There's something that I want to tell you after thinking about it. The bookkeeper told us that during the All-Eras martial gathering, Lin Xiaoji was only 1 step away. A slight push would have triggered the 9 stars descending phenomenon. However, for some reason, this kid suddenly retreated. Chen Fenghua was startled. Did this mean that Lin Xiaoji should have been first place? The spirit of the celestial list continued. Isn't this result a bit of a blow to you? Chen Fenghua regained his senses, shook his head, and said seriously, Senior, to be honest, this fact does not affect me. Moreover, in this world, if there are more and more people with better martial talent than me, I will be a little happy. He was a mortal. How could he not care about first place? However, he did not think that the first place would definitely belong to him. If his current martial Dao talent was not as good as Lin Xiaoji's, then he would have to work even harder in the future to deepen his understanding of martial Dao. Of course, Chen Fenghua did not mention the most important point. Feng Daoshu had always been a sacred existence in his heart. He had always felt very guilty for not being able to help Feng Daoshu. If Lin Xiaoji could help Feng Daoshu and resolve the current crisis, it would undoubtedly be for the best. I'm relieved that you think that way. However, we don't know if this kid can succeed. Let's wait here together. The smile on the face of the spirit of the celestial pole list grew wider. Although Chen Fenghua had failed, he had long regarded Chen Fenghua highly in his heart. Yes, Senior. Time trickled by. Under the gazes of the authorities and Chen Fenghua, Qin Nan proceeded forward on the ancient path. 3 hours later, Qin Nan arrived in front of the magical door. Qin Nan had the same feeling as Chen Fenghua. As such, Qin Nan soon reached his hand into the door and took out the runes, words, runes, etc. The whole process was extremely smooth. In less than half the period it took an incense to burn, everything on the magical door was taken away, leaving only a symbol that looked like the word destiny. It's the crucial moment. The spirit of the celestial pole list, Heaven Highness Zihao, and the rest of the authorities were startled. Chen Fenghua subconsciously clenched his fists too. Qin Nan seemed to have sensed the magical effect of the symbol too. He paused for a few moments before reaching his hand toward it. It felt like time had slowed down at that instant. Everyone could clearly see every inch of Qin Nan's hand. Nothing out of the ordinary happened throughout the process. However, when Qin Nan's hand was only an inch away from the mysterious symbol, a mystical force burst out from it and stopped Qin Nan from moving any further. Bang! The sight was like a shocking thunderclap in the divine sense of the spirit of the celestial pole list, Heaven Highness Zihao, and the rest of the authorities, and Chen Fenghua. He failed. Everyone's expression changed greatly. What just happened? Why did Lin Xiaoji fail? Could it be that the fated one was someone else? However, only Lin Xiaoji and Chen Fenghua had the same level of martial talent. Including the ruler of the heart, the rest of the people's martial talent was incomparable to theirs. How could those fated people be the ones to seal the Taoist scroll? In an instant, their thoughts became incomparably chaotic. They simply did not know how to describe the emotions in their hearts. However, at that instant, Qin Nan reached out his hand once again. It felt like he was repeating Chen Fenghua's pattern. He would try again if he failed the first time. It happened so quickly that the authorities could not react in time. This time, Qin Nan's hand landed on the symbol without any hindrance. Qin Nan pulled it back. The symbol dissipated on its own. The door no longer existed. Everyone present stared blankly at this scene. In the next instant, an incomparably shocking phenomenon occurred. The ancient path began to crumble and cease to exist. The Book of Feng Dao, which had been lying there quietly all this time, seemed to have completely awakened from its eternal slumber. A bright light suddenly burst out from the blank page and rushed into the clouds. The ethereal and mysterious singing began to resound throughout the entire small world. A solemn, and dignified atmosphere swept through every corner at an incomparably shocking speed. Following it, an ancient immortal palace slowly appeared at the top of the sky. Around 3 breaths later, the true appearance of the immortal palace was revealed to the crowd. The immortal palace only had a single floor. It was over 1,000 zhang tall and 10,000 zhang wide. It was built with some kind of red material. The pillars were carved with countless ancient words, as if they were the arcana of the heavens and earth. Creak, creak, creak. The tightly shut door was slowly pulled open. An ancient aura immediately surged out from the mahogany immortal palace and swept out in all directions. At that instant, Qin Nan's figure was guided by a magical force, which brought him to the entrance of the door. He did it? The crowd could not believe their eyes. Even the dignified spirit of the heavenly pole list couldn't react quickly enough. They did not expect it to succeed the second time after failing the first time, resulting in such a huge change. Fated one, come in, I've been waiting for you. An ancient, hoarse voice could be heard coming from the palace. Every word sounded like it had been sealed away for tens of thousands of years, giving the crowd a sense of impact. It was the weapon spirit of the Book of Tao sealing. It had woken up. Moon Whisper, is it really you? The spirit of the celestial pole list collected its thoughts and wore a surprised look. The weapon spirit has really woken up? Heaven Highness See How and the rest of the authorities collected their thoughts too. The joy in their hearts was indescribable. Brother Tian, it's indeed me. This time I've troubled you for me. You can follow him and come in together. Moon Whisper's voice had a hint of joy too. After experiencing the changes of time and space, she was still able to see someone she knew when she woke up. Even with her calm personality, she was slightly moved. Ha ha ha, great! The spirit of the celestial pole list laughed loudly and walked forward. Heaven Highness See How and the rest of the authorities quickly reacted and followed closely behind. As Senior, can I go in with you? Senior, although Junior isn't your fated one, Junior has always treated you. Chen Fenghua came back to his senses and asked probingly. It was rare for him to be nervous, excited, and perturbed. Without waiting for him to finish, Moon Whisper's voice drifted over. Chen Fenghua, of course you can come in. You have to come in too. Chen Fenghua was immediately overjoyed and said, Many thanks, Senior. It was precisely because of this joy that Chen Fenghua did not realize that Moon Whisper actually knew his name. Furthermore, there seemed to be another meaning in this sentence. Following that, Qin Nan and the rest of the group entered the mahogany immortal palace. The moment they entered the palace, almost everyone's heartstrings seemed to be gently plucked, having an indescribable feeling. It was only to see that the entire immortal palace was incomparably empty. On the walls on both sides, candles made from the blood of ancient dragon beasts were slowly burning. Under the glow of the candles, everyone could see a pattern of 8 trigrams at the center of the palace. Each of the patterns was emitting a magical glow. Above the pattern, a lotus flower floated quietly. The lotus was different from the ordinary immortal lotuses. It only had 3 petals in total, which were green, blue, and purple. The patterns on them were clearly visible. On top of that, the stem of the lotus had turned black and was emitting a deathly aura. It formed a great contrast with the vitality of the petals and leaf. Moon Whisper, what are you? The spirit of the celestial pole list was startled when it realized something was wrong. Brother Tian, we'll talk about it later. Fated one, what's your name? Moon Whisper asked Qin Nan. Junior Lin Xiaoji greets Senior. Qin Nan quickly brought his fists together and greeted. Lin Xiaoji, Lin Xiaoji. Moon Whisper murmured a few times and let out a sigh before she said, Cultivator Lin, I must thank you for waking me up from my slumber. Now, there's something else I need your help with. Is that possible? Qin Nan said without hesitation, Senior, feel free to tell me what you need. I'll do it as long as it's within my capabilities. Qin Nan was not an idiot. Judging from the situation of the lotus and the spirit of the celestial pole list's reaction, he could already guess something. Actually, it's very simple. You just need to place your hand on the boulder. Moon Whisper let out a calm smile as the 3 petals of the lotus emitted a glow. As the green, blue, and purple intersected, a stone tablet that was 10 feet tall and 10 feet wide with various mottled patterns slowly appeared and landed on the ground. Sure. Qin Nan did not ask any further. He went up to the boulder and placed his hand on the boulder. At that instant, A mystical feeling encapsulated Qin Nan's figure. Qin Nan's mind was completely immersed in it. Everything in the palace was isolated and had nothing to do with him. Moon Whisper, you, the spirit of the celestial pole list, stared at the three-petal lotus with a dark expression. Brother Tian, as you can see, I'm not far away from my soul dissipating. Moon Whisper said. What? Chen Fenghua, Heaven Highness Zihao, and the rest of the authorities were startled. The weapon spirit of the Daofengshu was about to die. Is there any way we can help you? The spirit of the celestial pole list said in a deep voice. Brother Tian, my primary force has been damaged. There's nothing we can do. Don't be sad, it's all part of fate. Moon Whisper said with a calm smile. Besides, I've successfully created the general outline of the martial art after so many years. I don't have any regrets anymore. Chen Fenghua was startled. General outline of the martial art? What martial art? Just as he was feeling confused, a ray of light fell on his body. Chen Fenghua, even though you're not the fated one who created the martial art, you're my fated one. It's why you're able to trigger the 9 stars descending and see the door. Moon Whisper said sternly, once I've completely taught Cultivator Lin the general outline of the martial art, I'll die for real. However, if the Daofengshu loses its weapon spirit, it will suffer great damage. I'm afraid it will turn into a Dao weapon in less than 10 years. I want to ask you, are you willing to replace me and become the weapon spirit of the Daofengshu? Once those words were said, everyone's faces were filled with astonishment. The weapon spirit? Me? Chen Fenghua pointed at himself in disbelief. That's right, it's you. Only you can replace me and become the weapon spirit of the Daofengshu. Moon Whisper said, of course, you don't have to worry. You won't lose your freedom after becoming the weapon spirit of the Daofengshu. You can still cultivate and pursue your own path. Chapter 2407. After he finished speaking, strands of immortal qi floated out from the 3-colored lotus and condensed into a young man. The young man had an ordinary appearance, but his eyes were extraordinary. When his eyes met Chen Fenghua's, the latter's heart skipped a beat as if he had seen the stars in the sky. The spirit of the celestial pole list stood aside. He let out a sigh when he saw the young man's pale face. However, the celestial pole-ranking spirit quickly adjusted his emotions. He understood this old friend of his very well. Since things had reached this point, he didn't need to feel sad for him. Chen Fenghua, are you willing? Moon's chant asked. The atmosphere in the entire hall inexplicably became solemn. The spirit of the celestial pole list, Heaven Highness Zihao, and the rest of the authorities watched in silence. They did not express their thoughts. The weapon spirit of the Book of Dao Fengdao was destined to inherit its sacred heritage. It could not be disturbed. Senior, I've been neglected since I was young because of my ordinary cultivation talent. I didn't have many friends. I originally loathed this world. Until one day I obtained the first martial skill in my life. It was an ancestral art. Since then, I've opened a new door. I've entered a whole new world. The true essence and transformations of every martial skill made me endlessly infatuated, and I felt an unprecedented sense of joy. As a result, one day I decided to let it go. I no longer cared about what the world thought of me. I slowly cultivated and read the different martial skills to understand their stories and the reason behind them. Everything. Until one day I suddenly learned that there's a treasure in this world, the Book of Dao Fengdao. From then on, my first long-term goal in life was to see Fengdaoshu with my own eyes one day and experience Fengdaoshu's understanding of the martial Dao. To be honest, I'm not really interested in cultivation, and I don't like fighting and killing. Sometimes, breaking through to the next level is just for me to understand the secrets of higher levels of martial arts, so I can come into contact with more advanced martial skills and martial arts. Therefore, now that I've become the weapon spirit of the Book of Dao Fengdao, I have a chance to witness the truth of martial arts. Why would I reject it? Chen Fenghua slowly explained. His eyes glittered as he reached the end. Right now, he was really very happy. Haha, great, great! From today onward, you're the next weapon spirit of the Book of Dao Fengdao. A rare smile appeared on Moon Whisper's face. This was his own inheritance. Moon, congratulations, you've found a great successor. The spirit of the Heaven Peak leaderboard, Empyrean Zihao, and the other big shots all nodded their heads in unison, sending their congratulations. However, Senior, there's something I don't understand. You mentioned the general outline of the cultivation method earlier, and you want me and Lin Xiaoji to perfect it together. What's going on? Chen Fenghua was confused. About that, Moon's chant was about to speak when the boulder beside her emitted a red glow all of a sudden. Moon Chant immediately turned her head around and saw the bottom of the boulder and under Qin Nan's feet emitting rays of light. One was green, one was blue, one was purple, and one was black. A total of 5 colors of brilliance illuminated the entire hall, completely overshadowing the flames on the surrounding walls. As I thought, he's still not the most suitable one? When Moon Whisper saw this scene, she was slightly absent-minded and muttered to herself. Not the most suitable fated person? The spirit of the celestial pole list, Heaven Highness Zihao, and the rest of the authorities were startled. They were wondering if they had heard it wrong. Chen Fenghua was even more confused. However, he was not in a rush to ask. He waited patiently instead. A few moments later, Moon's chant finally collected her thoughts. She calmed her thoughts and looked at Chen Fenghua. I believe Brother Tian and the others didn't tell you the whole truth, right? I'll have to explain it from before I went into seclusion. All along, Brother Tian, the Sacred Heaven Martial Sect, and the experts of our generation have been working hard to promote the martial path of the primary upper realm. Speaking of which, with what we've done over the years, the speed of martial arts in the entire primary upper realm has increased by at least 10 times, and it's already at the peak of the world. In the unseen world, a kind of general trend that doesn't exist yet exists is formed. However, a year before I went into seclusion, an image suddenly appeared in my mind. The image would appear once every 24 hours. No matter what I tried, it would keep repeating. This image is very fragmented and blurry. I've studied it repeatedly for over a month before I discovered the information it contains. In the near future, for some reason, the martial path of the primary upper realm will decline all of a sudden. It might even disappear completely one day. Chen Fenghua was astounded. The martial path of the primary upper realm would decline? Or even disappear completely? How was that possible? The rise and fall of the martial path depended on whether there were any peerless geniuses in the current era. However, in the current era, there were already 4 peerless legends: Song, Zhou Di, Huang Fuju, and Yi Zhaoxian. There were even geniuses like the Ruler of Hearts who had created legend. Regardless of how one looked at it, the trend of the martial path was constantly advancing and growing stronger. It was impossible for it to decline. You can't believe it, right? To be honest, Brother Tian and I couldn't believe it either. However, there's an interesting old saying: the peak of prosperity leads to the decline. Looking at the long river of history, many great powers have experienced the process of decline from the peak of prosperity. Not a single one was spared. Even though the overall trend of the martial path is different from the sects and clans. I couldn't be sure if the image was real or fake. However, at that moment I felt my mission. Therefore, I chose to go into seclusion and devote my life's effort to create a law-defying art. I wanted to find a fated person with great fortune and talent. I wanted him to perfect my law-defying art and become a peerless ruler. One day, he would be able to turn the world around and become the martial path of the primary upper realm. He would protect me. As she spoke to this point, Moon Chant's pale complexion suddenly became rosy. She was brimming with energy and vitality. At that instant, Chen Fenghua suddenly understood Moon Chant. She was someone who was unbelievably obsessed with the martial path. As such, she was the weapon spirit of the Tao Sealing Scroll. She had felt a sense of mission because of the image. However, how could it be so easy to create a law-defying art? I've used too much of my primary force in the process of deducing it, resulting in the current situation. I don't have much time left. The Tao Sealing Scroll is all about fate. The law-defying art that I've created is supposed to be inherited by the most suitable and fated person. However, since I don't have much time left, I had no choice but to lower my requirements. The boulder that Lin Xiaoji has touched is called the Tao Sealing Boulder. It can trigger 10 rays of light, but Lin Xiaoji has only triggered 5 rays of light. In other words, Lin Xiaoji has only achieved 50% of it. He's not the most suitable person. Moon Chant shook her head. He's not the most suitable person? If that's the case, Moon Chant, you don't have to worry. Chen Fenghua will replace you as the next weapon spirit. When the time comes, the sacred heavenly martial sect and I will do our best to help Chen Fenghua. Can't we just look for the most suitable person? The spirit of the celestial pole list said with a frown. Brother Tian, as the weapon spirit of the Tao Sealing Scroll, I can predict when my fated person will appear. However, I am unable to predict when the person who is most compatible with my mission, the person who is most suitable for it, will appear. It might be a year, 10 years, 100 years, 1,000 years, or even 10,000 years. We don't have to gamble, and we don't have to wait. It's already good enough that we can meet someone who has achieved 50% of it. Furthermore, after this, we can continue to search for the most suitable and fated person. Now, let Lin Xiaoji grow up and shoulder the mission of revitalizing martial arts. When Lin Xiaoji becomes a peerless expert, he can also shoulder the mission of passing down the legacy, and let him look for it together. Of course, don't tell Lin Xiaoji about these things. Moon Chant said with a faint smile. Now that you mention it, it does make a lot of sense. However, why do I feel that you've schemed against Lin Xiaoji? The spirit of the celestial pole list said thoughtfully. Senior, who schemed against me? At this time, Qin Nan had broken away from the mysterious feeling and happened to hear the spirit of the celestial pole list's words. Moon Chant glared at the spirit of the celestial pole list, who immediately laughed and said, No, we were just joking around. Moon Chant glanced at Qin Nan and said with a smile, Lin Xiaoji, you and Chen Fenghua will stand on the tricolor lotus together. Qin Nan and Chen Fenghua exchanged glances with one another before they proceeded forward. Chen Fenghua might be aware of everything, but Qin Nan was clueless in his heart. The only thing he could feel was that since he had awakened Moon Whisper, it was likely that Moon Whisper had prepared a great fortunate encounter for him. When the two came to a stop, the tricolor immortal lotus emitted a blinding light and devoured them. Qin Nan and Chen Fenghua only felt the scene before them changing. A few moments later, everything in front of them changed tremendously. They were currently in a colorful space that was isolated from the rest of the hall. Moon Chant was wearing a long robe with ancient words written on it. She sat with her legs crossed in front of them with an imperious look. Chen Fenghua, in the name of the first weapon spirit of the Tao Sealing Scroll, I hereby grant you the second weapon spirit of the Tao Sealing Scroll. Sit with your legs crossed and focus on receiving the succession. Moon Chant said, each word like thunder. Weapon spirit? Qin Nan was startled. Thank you, master. Chen Fenghua straightened his face and bowed 3 times in a row. He then sat with his legs crossed and took a deep breath. Bang! A majestic light burst out from the colorful space and struck Chen Fenghua, setting off waves of shocking ripples. A mysterious inheritance began to take place. Lin Xiaoji, I fell into a deep sleep in the past for no other reason than to focus on creating a martial art. However, after so many years, I've only managed to come up with its general outline. You are the destined one of the Tao sealing scroll. I would like to teach you the general outline of the martial art. Are you willing? Moonchant asked. General outline of the martial art? Qin Nan was startled. He did not expect Moonchant to give him such a great opportunity. She was the weapon spirit of the Tao sealing scroll. She had spent so much time to come up with the general outline of the martial art. It was easy to imagine how terrifying and shocking the martial art was. Senior, Qin Nan brought his fists together and said. Xiaoji, don't worry, I'm willing to teach you everything I've learned. However, I do have some conditions too. Firstly, you and Chen Fenghua will work together to perfect the martial art. Secondly, once you become a peerless expert with real strength, you must pay close attention to the trend of martial arts in the primary upper realm. If the trend of martial arts starts to decline, you must intervene and reverse the situation. Thirdly, I will teach you the art of the Tao sealing boulder. If you happen to stumble into someone who can trigger the art and trigger 10 rays of light, you must teach them the art. Are you willing to do that? Moonchant asked while looking into his eyes. Qin Nan was startled. It seemed like 3 conditions, but if one thought about it carefully, they weren't conditions at all. There was no need to mention the first 2 conditions. Qin Nan would do it himself. As for the third condition, Moonchant was only trying to pass down her efforts. If he stumbled into a suitable person, Qin Nan was more than willing to pass it down to the next generation. Lin Xiaoji, the Tao sealing scroll is all about fate. You are the destined one of the martial art. Apart from you, no one else will be able to learn it. Now that my lifespan has come to an end, I'm about to disappear from the world. Can you consider it as helping me once? Moon Whisper's tone became somewhat heavy. Senior, you're being too serious. It's a great opportunity for me that you're willing to teach me the general outline of the martial art. I'm not the one helping you, you're the one helping me. Qin Nan brought his fists together and said, Senior, don't worry, I'll agree to all the conditions you've mentioned. I'll do it if it's within my means. I'll swear now. Before he could finish, Moonchant wore a faint smile and said, There's no need to swear. You're the destined one of the martial art. As long as you agree to it, it's enough. I believe you. Xiaoji, I hope the martial art will help you grow into an undefeatable Heaven Highness. It might even help you achieve the legendary Supreme Highness realm and create countless legends. Chapter 2408. Meanwhile, in the Immortal Palace, the spirit of the Celestial Pole List, Heaven Highness Zihao, and the rest of the authorities raised their heads as they sensed something. They saw the sky above them changing rapidly as various rare phenomena took place, as if a great calamity was about to befall them. They also saw the pages of the Book of Tao sealing flipping at the bottom of the cliff. An indescribable aura was unleashed from it, affecting the heavens and earth. A new aura, will, and life force were being emitted from it. It was obvious that Moon Whisper had passed on her position to Chen Fenghua. Everyone. At this moment, Moon Whisper's figure appeared from the light of the tricolor immortal lotus. His hair had turned pale white, and a few cracks had appeared on his glowing body. The cracks were slowly expanding. Many people would feel unwillingness, regret, or relief before their death, but Moon Whisper did not show any emotion. She was full of energy instead. In Moon Whisper's heart, it was not dead yet. It was still alive. The Book of Tao sealing has changed its weapon spirit, and Fenghua's cultivation is too weak, so the origin of the Book of Tao sealing will suffer a great blow. I hope you can do me a favor and stabilize the Book of Tao sealing until Fenghua has complete control over it. Moon Whisper brought her fists together. Fine, don't try that. We'll do it even if you don't say it. The spirit of the Celestial Pole List rolled her eyes. That's right, Senior Moon Whisper, the Book of Tao sealing is the greatest artifact of the sacred martial sect, and it's related to the martial path of the primary upper realm. Regardless of the price, the sacred martial sect will stabilize the Book of Tao sealing. Heaven Highness see how blurted out. Then, thank you. Moon Whisper smiled. It might be the first time she smiled the most in her life. You're leaving? The spirit of the celestial pole list asked. It's about time. Brother Tion, don't feel sad for me. Moon Whisper said seriously. Damn, come on, who would feel sad for you? The spirit of the celestial pole leaderboard grumbled. But the spirit of the celestial pole list clapped its hands as a thought crossed its mind. 2 jade cups filled with immortal wine floated in the air. Let's make an exception and have a drink before we leave. How's that? The spirit of the celestial pole list said. Ugh, I'll have a drink. Moon Whisper hesitated for a moment, then nodded and accepted a jade cup. Of course. Of course, Moon Whisper, Moon Whisper. Moon Whisper. Moon Whisper raise her cup too. Seeing the spirit of the celestial pole list drink it in one gulp and exclaim in satisfaction, Moon Whisper's palm trembled slightly. Then she raised her head and drank it in one gulp. Even though he no longer had a body, he still felt a burning sensation. Of the God Lord, of course. Moon Whisper's figure completely shattered, turning into rays of light that filled the sky. The of the hands heavenless. At this moment, in the colorful space, Chunfenghua's body began to change tremendously. Meanwhile, a shocking sight took place in Qin Nan's divine sense too. He could only see his will arriving in a boundless darkness. A blurry figure emitting a golden glow walked toward him from the end of the darkness, one step at a time. Senior. Qin Nan tried to call out. The golden figure did not pay any attention to him. Instead, it directly arrived beside him and grabbed his shoulder. Then, it slowly said, looking at all the martial techniques in the primary upper realm, without exception, they were all comprehended from the changes of the rules, the changes of the world, the changes of all living things, and the changes of the mundane world. Any absurd idea, any strange idea, perhaps after some deduction, can be turned into a peerless technique. Every cultivator has their own martial art, but they have yet to discover it, comprehend it, or deduce it. I won't teach you the general outline that I've created. I'll guide you and show you how I'm going to create the general outline bit by bit. Don't miss out on any details and don't overlook any of your thoughts. You only need to grasp the core of the general outline that I've created. The rest will be yours. Following this, the boundless darkness before Qin Nan changed tremendously. Qin Nan and the golden figure arrived at a barren land. They watched as one cultivator after another flew toward the barren land and built one city after another, which eventually turned into a magnificent kingdom. Qin Nan witnessed the rise and fall of the dynasty. Qin Nan witnessed the outbreak and the end of the war. Qin Nan saw drops of water merging into a big river, and the big rivers merging into an ocean. He saw a seed growing into a huge tree, and as more seeds were sown, they slowly developed into a forest. He saw rocks piling up into mountains, and mountains forming into each other. Mountains and mountains. Qin Nan even saw the sea turning into a mulberry field, the forest turning into yellow sand, and the mountains turning into cracks. There was a beginning and an end. There was a beginning and an end. There was a beginning and an end. It was a cycle. Between heaven and earth, eternal power is the strongest power. However, without true eternal power, nothing can stop the consumption of time and space, the changes in the rules, the turmoil of heaven and earth, and the changes in people's hearts. Therefore, only a power that is close to eternal is a powerful power. The golden figure's voice echoed in Qin Nan's sea of consciousness. Qin Nan seemed to have sensed something. His thoughts were running wild. Following this, the golden figure continued to show Qin Nan what he was experiencing. There were the rise and fall of experts. There were also the continuation of ambitions and the withering of ambitions. There were also love, friendship, and kinship, regret, sorrow, joy, regret, gratitude, and countless other emotions were magnified infinitely and extremely clear. After each experience, the golden figure would say a sentence. Bit by bit, everything gathered. Qin Nan did not know how much time had passed, nor did he know how much Qin Nan had seen. However, the thoughts in his mind began to grow more and more, becoming more and more complex. They kept extending in countless directions. He seemed to have grasped a point, but also seemed to have not. It was extremely strange. Gradually, Qin Nan's footsteps slowed down. In the end, he ignored the golden figure and sat down cross-legged. Every thought and every realization seemed to turn into words. They kept splitting and turning into long rivers of words that surged in all directions. They became a sea of words that surged forward. They kept growing and splitting. Qin Nan did not know that when he stopped, the golden figure also stopped and sat down cross-legged in front of him. It spoke thunderously and explained the mysteries, regardless of whether Qin Nan could hear it or not. Time passed bit by bit. Before he knew it, 6 months had passed. During this period, the flames of war broke out in the entire primary upper realm from time to time. Various major forces clashed with each other. The peak Heaven Highness realm authorities who stood at the top were visiting the Heaven's Dome more frequently. Song, Zhou Di, Huang Fuju, and Yi Zhaoxian, who had always been the center of attention, were making their moves too. For example, Song and Zhou Di had a huge battle. The outcome of the battle was unknown. Less than 5 days later, Yi Zhaoxian also had a huge battle with Song. The outcome of the battle was unknown. Another time, a Bodhi authority announced that he had recruited a core disciple with the surname Bai, and his name was Zongsheng. The path of history was repeating itself. No one could change it without any deviation. In addition to that, Chen Fenghua woke up from his deep sleep and became the new weapon spirit of Feng Daoshu. Just as Moon Whisper had expected, the aura of Feng Daoshu's body started to decline rapidly. The spirit of the celestial list and the big shots of the Holy Celestial Martial Sect quickly entered Feng Daoshu's body with massive amounts of treasures and various other methods. Chen Fenghua grew a lot stronger with the help and guidance of the authorities. He also managed to stabilize Feng Daoshu's condition. Chen Fenghua began to comprehend the Heaven's Dome scripture just like Qin Nan. Moon Whisper had also taught him the general outline of the law-defying art that she had deduced. Although he was unable to practice it, it was necessary for him to fully grasp the essence of it. That way, he would be able to deduce the first and second chapters together with Qin Nan in the future. Meanwhile, in the heaven-level area of the Immortal Transformation Pond in the Xinyang Taoism faction in the 21st Small Immortal Realm, 3 of the pitch-black immortal palaces suddenly shone with a resplendent light. 3 majestic auras soared into the sky. A moment later, 2 wuxes took place as Ji Xian and Mingqiu Progenitor arrived in front of one of the palaces. Right now, both of their faces were flushed with health, and they were in high spirits. In the past 6 months they had been living like gods. No matter what kind of heavenly treasure or cultivation method they wanted, as long as it wasn't too difficult, the Xinyang Orthodoxy would get it done almost immediately. That celestial sovereign Wan Luo had even personally come over and explained the mysteries of being a celestial for 3 whole months, giving them pointers. As a result, Mingqiu Progenitor's strength skyrocketed after achieving the peak ruler realm. Even though Ji Xian's cultivation did not have a breakthrough, his deduction art had reached a higher level, allowing his strength to improve significantly. Gu Fei, you asshole, what are you doing? Come out at once. Ji Xian yelled when he did not see any movement from the palace after waiting for a few moments. I'm coming, what's the rush? Gu Fei's voice came from inside the palace. After several breaths of time, the door slowly opened. A young man with short blonde hair walked out with 2 pretty women in his arms. The young man with short golden hair was Gu Fei's human form. The Xinjiang Taoism faction had been supporting him for the past 6 months. He had fully displayed the strength of his bloodline. In just 4 months, he had achieved the Heaven Highness realm and the Master realm from the sacred areas of the heavens and earth and the Tao-seeking land. He had also achieved the intermediate stage of the Master realm after cultivating for more than a month. Holy crap! Isn't that Heaven Highness Wan Luo's granddaughter? Ji Xian cursed when he saw the woman in the Heaven Immortal realm on Gu Fei's left. What are you talking about? She's your sister-in-law now. Gu Fei said sternly. Gu Fei, tell me, how many have you tricked in the past 6 months? Minchu progenitor said with a twisted face. Hey, Senior Minchu, what are you talking about? The 3 of us are in love with each other. There's no such thing as tricking. Don't you agree? Gu Fei looked at the 2 women beside him. He transmitted his voice to Minchu progenitor. Senior, not many. Only around 18 so far. Brother Gu Fei is right. The 2 girls had no idea what was going on. Their cheeks were flushed red, and Ji Xian's jealousy was burning fiercely. Well done, you're really something. Alright, let's not waste any more time. Let's head to the first immortal realm. Minchu progenitor was left speechless. He quickly switched the topic. Are we going now? Aren't we going to wait for Brother Lin? Gu Fei asked. I don't know how long Brother Lin will take. I've tried to transmit my voice to him, but he didn't respond. I've asked a Heaven Highness of the Sacred Martial Sect, but he only told me that there's a fortune waiting for us. Ji Xian said. Alright, we'll go on our own then. Gu Fei shook his head. He flirted with the women beside him for a while before following Ji Xian and Minchu progenitor. Fairies of the first immortal realm, I, Gu Fei, am here. The experts of the Xinjiang Taoism factions were overjoyed when they heard the news. Time gradually passed. A month later, the mysterious place of the sacred martial sect, Qin Nan, who had remained still for a long time, began to react. First, a dragon-like golden light coiled around his body. Then, ancient golden characters rapidly spread out in all directions with his body as the center. The innumerable thoughts and innumerable spiritual lights began to collide again and again like meteors crashing into each other, setting off monstrous waves of fire. In the end, Qin Nan grabbed a unique flame among the waves of flames. The moment the flame landed in his hand, it grew rapidly and turned into a scorching flame that swept across the world. Is this the great heavenly samsara art? Qin Nan's eyes sprang open in astonishment. What kind of power was it that was so close to eternity between the heavens and earth? If someone were to ask, they would think that it was the power of destiny. That was right, it was indeed the power of destiny, as destiny existed everywhere and was everywhere. Everything could be attributed to destiny. Some would even think that it was the power of time and space. It was reasonable too, as time and space existed no matter where one was. Some would also think that it was the power of the origin. It was reasonable too, as the origin was the beginning of everything. If there was a world, it would exist too. However, when they thought about destiny, time and space, or the origin, or something else, what difference did it make? Did it really mean they could control the power that was so close to eternity? Chapter 2409. Senior Moon Whisper's idea is truly magnificent. Qin Nan exclaimed in his heart. A complete martial art was split into the general outline, the upper part and the lower part. Some martial arts were split into the general outline, the upper part, the middle part, and the lower part. However, the general outline of the Great Harmonization Heaven art was enough to teach someone how to create the origin. Following the trend, if Qin Nan were to continue deducing the rest of the Great Harmonization Heaven art, how powerful would the first and second parts be? On top of it, Senior Moon Chant had also executed a law-defying move when she was completing the general outline. Normally, the general outline of a martial art represented the content of the first and second parts of the martial art. For example, the art of the immortal demon in Huang Fuju's general outline of the art of the immortal demon had evolved into the first and second parts. It was the same for the Battle Dao Immortal Manuscript, the True Scriptures of Sky Tai Huang, and many other arts of Dao seeking. However, the general outline of the Great Harmonization Heaven art could be said to contain the true essence or not. When it became the origin and was viewed as the true essence, it became a goal, a concept. It could also be used as a starting point instead of the true essence. As such, it would be easier for Qin Nan to create the first and second parts of the Great Harmonization Heaven art in the future. He would be able to extend it in many different directions. Senior Moon Chant must have known she was running out of time before she started, thus she came up with the general outline to give me more space. Qin Nan slowly calmed his thoughts. Senior Moon Chant's understanding of martial arts and her attainments in the martial arts path were extraordinarily terrifying. If Senior Moon Chant was given enough time, she would surely be able to create the complete Great Harmonization Heaven art. Senior Moon Chant, don't you worry, I won't let your efforts go to waste. Qin Nan clenched his fists tightly as he tried to control his inner force. A moment later, he released his fists and rose to his feet. It was time to cultivate. Qin Nan waved his hand. The colorful space he was in immediately shattered into pieces. His figure returned to the hall. Almost instantly, Qin Nan sensed that the aura emanating from the hall, as well as the heaven and earth outside the hall, was completely different from before. Little friend Lin, you've already comprehended the cultivation method? At this moment, a voice rang out. Heavenly Sovereign Zi Hao's figure descended into the hall with a face full of smiles. Yes, Senior. Qin Nan cupped his hands and said. The cultivation method that Moon Whisper created this time is truly not simple. Even with your martial Dao talent, you actually spent an entire 6 months to comprehend it. To be honest, this old man is really looking forward to you and young friend Chen perfecting this cultivation method. Heavenly Sovereign Zi Hao sighed with emotion. Well, I won't say anything unnecessary. Since you're already awake, come with me to my young friend Chen. He turned around and walked towards the door. Qin Nan followed closely behind. A moment later, the old man and the young man arrived at the edge of the cliff. The Book of Feng Daoist at the bottom of the cliff was still there. Unlike before, its cover was flickering with a brilliant golden glow. Apart from its mysteriousness, it also felt inviolable and sacred. The Book of Feng Daoist seemed to be aware of it. Countless golden words floated out of it and slowly formed Chen Fenghua's figure. Cultivator Lin, you've already mastered the general outline so quickly? I've spent 3 months, and I've only just found a clue. Chen Fenghua smiled. Cultivator Chen, don't say that. I spent 3 months and still didn't have a clue. Qin Nan shook his head with a smile. He had to admit that Chen Fenghua had changed tremendously after becoming the weapon spirit of the Book of Dao Bestowment. He was no longer as indifferent as before, as if he didn't care about anything at all. It felt a lot more real now. You two kids, stop flattering each other. This old man can't stand it anymore. Heaven venerate Zi Hao stroked his beard and smiled. Senior Zi Hao is right. Brother Lin, you can call me Fenghua from now on. From today onward, I'll carry the mission that Master mentioned and keep perfecting the Great Harmonization Heaven art with you. I hope Brother Lin won't despise me in the future. Chen Fenghua reached out his right hand as he spoke. Fenghua, don't say such things. From today onward, you and I are brothers. We'll grow together. Qin Nan reached out his hand too and shook it. In an instant, the two of them were slightly startled. Perhaps it was because of Senior Moon Chant or because they were both comprehending the Great Harmonization Heaven art, or something else, but they somehow felt close to each other, as if they were real brothers. Brother Lin, I have a letter here. Master left it for us. Take a look. Chen Fenghua soon thought of something and took out a scroll. Qin Nan quickly inspected it with his divine sense. Senior Moon Chant didn't leave much words. It roughly told them what to do first after they comprehended the general principle. Then let's do as Senior said and look for the seniors on the Heaven Pole leaderboard. Fenghua, what do you plan to do? Do you want to go with me or wait for the comprehension to end? Qin Nan asked. I'll go with you. I want to see you really enter a state of cultivation. Chen Fenghua thought for a while and said, All right. Qin Nan nodded. Both of them looked at Heaven Venerate Zi Hao at the same time. You're thinking of this old man at a time like this? All right, I'll tell Brother Tian now. Heaven Venerate Zi Hao smiled. After transmitting his divine sense, he took out 2 light red tokens. They emitted traces of a Heaven Venerate Powerhouse's oppressive aura. These 2 tokens are our Divine Martial Sect's Divine Martial Token. The person who holds the token is like our Divine Martial Sect's Supreme Elder. You 2 little guys, your cultivation is still very weak. With these 2 tokens, you will be able to use them in many situations. If this token can't solve the problem, you can send me a message through this token. At this point, Heavenly Venerate Zi Hao paused and smiled. To be honest, as long as the 2 of you didn't do anything wrong, the Sacred Heaven Martial Sect will definitely support you without holding back, even if you turn the entire Great Upper Realm upside down. Qin Nan and Chen Fenghua felt a warmth in their hearts. The words, without holding back, were enough to prove how important they were to the Divine Martial Sect. Thank you, Senior. We'll never forget this kindness. Qin Nan and Chen Fenghua didn't decline. They took the tokens and cupped their fists. What kindness! Old Purple, what benefits are you using to bribe them? At this moment, another voice sounded. A wisp of the spirit of the Celestial Pole List's consciousness appeared not far from them. Greetings, Senior. Qin Nan and Chen Fenghua quickly bowed. Brother Tian, what are you talking about? Little friend Lin and little friend Qin are responsible for revitalizing the martial Tao in the primary upper realm. It's only right for our Divine Martial Sect to support them without holding back. Speaking of which, Brother Tian, shouldn't you express your gratitude? Heaven Venerate Zi Hao said with a smile. TSK, you finally remember me? I can't be bothered with you. The spirit of the Celestial Pole List rolled its eyes and looked at Qin Nan and Chen Fenghua. Why are you looking for me? Let me make it clear to both of you in advance. As the spirit of the Celestial Pole List, I have to be fair in many things. Qin Nan said, Senior, this is a jade slip left behind by Senior Moon Whisper. It asked us to give it to you. The spirit of the Celestial Pole List nodded and probed it with its divine thought. It didn't feel anything when it read the first part. However, when it read the last part, it couldn't help but swear. F***ck. This Moon Whisper actually schemed against me? Qin Nan and Chen Fenghua couldn't help smiling. What a Moon Whisper! She's already gone and still won't stop. The spirit of the Celestial Pole List gnashed its teeth and finally sighed. Rubbing the space between its eyebrows, it said, To be honest, if it weren't for Moon Whisper, that fellow playing this trick, even if I knew that you guys needed this, I wouldn't have easily let you guys enter. Since things have come to this, I'll agree to your request. You guys just wait here for a moment. When my true body rush is over, I'll bring you guys over. Qin Nan and Chen Fenghua both looked delighted and hurriedly cupped their hands to thank it. In the jade slip left behind by Moon Whisper, one of the things that she wanted the spirit of the Celestial Pole List to do was to let the spirit of the Celestial Pole List allow Qin Nan and Chen Fenghua to enter the deepest part of the Celestial Pole List and cultivate the Datong Heavenly Art. The Datong Heavenly Art was to teach people how to become the origin. The first step was to find the true origin energy, observe and comprehend it from the side, and then guide the origin energy into the body. Only then could one begin to cultivate according to the method of the Datong Heavenly Art. In fact, it wasn't very difficult for the current Qin Nan to do this. Although it was definitely impossible to enter the core of the small celestial realms that were ranked at the top of the main upper realm and directly come into contact with the origin energy, Qin Nan now had the support of the sacred celestial martial sect and the help of big shots like Feng Daoshu and Long Ra to enter the core of the small celestial realms that were ranked at the bottom of the small celestial realms. There was absolutely no problem in the heart. However, compared to the Celestial Pole List, there was a huge difference. The Celestial Pole List was the same as the Undying Cycle Mountain. They were both evolved from a part of the origin energy at the beginning of the ancient times. They were existences that were born at the same time as the main upper realm. The origin energy contained in the Celestial Pole List was the most ancient and the purest. The origin energy of the small celestial realms that were ranked at the bottom couldn't compare to it. If he could enter the depths of the Celestial Pole List and feel the origin energy of the Celestial Pole List, then Qin Nan's cultivation of the Datong heavenly art would be twice the result with half the effort. Then, Heavenly Venerate Zi Hao stayed for a while before leaving to deal with the sex matters. Qin Nan and Chen Fenghua waited for a day before the spirit of the Celestial Pole List's main body descended. The two of you should know that if you want to enter the Celestial Pole List, you will only have a chance during the ranking battle. If you want to enter the depths of the Celestial Pole List, then you have to be in the top 20 or even the first place. This time I've broken a lot of rules for the two of you. Therefore, don't disappoint me when I let you in this time. You have to master the general principles completely before the start of the Heavenly Venerate battle. If you can't do it, then don't blame Big Brother Tian for bullying the two of you. The spirit of the Celestial Pole List clenched his fist. Ahem, Big Brother Tian, don't worry. I definitely won't disappoint you. Qin Nan immediately said. It was still year 2004 of the Sacred Sky Calendar. There was still a lot of time left, so there shouldn't be any problems. That's more like it. Oh right, there's one more thing. Before entering the depths of the Celestial Pole List, I will completely seal the two of you. After that, I will release you. The spirit of the Celestial Pole List said. Okay. Then, the spirit of the Celestial Pole List flicked his finger and an incomparably powerful sealing force immediately fell on Qin Nan and Chen Fenghua. The two of them sat cross-legged and focused their minds. The spirit of the Celestial Pole List waved its hand and a mysterious force descended, directly taking the two of them away. After nearly a day, the spirit of the Celestial Pole List's voice resounded in their sea of consciousness. After 10 breaths, I will release you. Remember, circulate the power in your body completely, so that you won't be injured when the time comes. Qin Nan and Chen Fenghua's eyes turned cold. They didn't dare to neglect and operated the power in their bodies to the extreme. After 10 breaths, the sealing force that shrouded the two of them directly dissipated. Boom! At this moment, Qin Nan only felt as if a shocking thunder had exploded in his ears. An incomparably terrifying aura, like the endless immortal sea, instantly crushed his body. Even with his current cultivation, his body couldn't help but tremble violently and his blood surged. Especially his mind, it suffered an unimaginable huge impact. Not good. Qin Nan was startled. Chen Fenghua's current cultivation was still weaker than his. Chen Fenghua would surely suffer serious injuries under such a terrifying pressure. Don't worry, I've protected him. The spirit of the Celestial Pole List said with a calm smile. Thank you, Senior. Qin Nan let out a relieved sigh. He opened his eyes and glanced ahead. Following a glimpse, his eyes flickered with astonishment. They were currently in a vast and boundless purple space. Not far in front of them, there was an unimaginably huge golden halo that looked like an immemorial sun. The light inside was like the sea, and with every breath it would churn countless times. Every time it moved, there would be an unimaginably terrifying power surging out. Since Qin Nan had achieved the ruler realm, he had rarely felt insignificant. Chapter 24:10. Are you stunned? The spirit of the celestial pole list was very satisfied with their reaction. It said with a smile, "You should know that this is only a small part of the ancient primary force. It's easy to imagine how powerful the ancient primary force is." Qin Nan and Chen Fenghua both agreed with it. The spirit of the celestial pole list glanced at Qin Nan and fired a ray of light into Qin Nan's body. With this ray of light, it will be easier for you to cultivate here. I still have other things to do, so I'll be leaving first. You two keep practicing. Speaking up to here, it paused for a moment before adding, "Moon Whisper, that kid, to be able to come up with such a general outline, it really wasn't easy. So, don't let it down." Qin Nan and Chen Fenghua immediately brought their fists together. "Senior, don't worry, we'll try our best." The spirit of the celestial pole list nodded and disappeared on the spot. "Brother Lin, go ahead." Chen Fenghua made an inviting gesture. Qin Nan stared at the golden halo that resembled an ancient sun. After a few moments, he took a deep breath and flew to the top and sat down with his legs crossed. Heavenly harmonization technique. Qin Nan uttered a groan as his hands began to perform different hand seals at a shocking speed. After performing over 10,000 hand seals, Qin Nan's appearance remained the same. After performing 99,999 hand seals, his body began to emit a red glow. Qin Nan's aura began to undergo a mysterious transformation. Chen Fenghua also sat with his legs crossed and focused on observing the hand seals that Qin Nan was performing, as well as the changes in his body. Time gradually passed, and a month was gone in the blink of an eye. Over the course of a month, it was as if Qin Nan had no concept of fatigue, nor did he feel bored, as he continued to perform the hand seals. As such, his body began to undergo a shocking change too. From top to bottom, every part of his body gradually turned transparent. In the end, one could only see the rough outline of his body through the clothes he was wearing. This was the secret of the heavenly harmonization technique. As everyone knew, the primary force was the purest and most primitive force between the heavens and earth. As such, Yu believed that in order to become the primary force, she would have to make her flesh simple, pure, and flawless. Only then would it become the foundation of the primary force. "It's about time," Chen Fenghua murmured. Following this, he saw Qin Nan's robe flapping wildly despite the absence of wind. The silhouette of his hands appeared and emitted a golden light. The various hand seals he was forming suddenly changed into another type of hand seal. Furthermore, the speed of his hand seals had more than doubled. A great arcane feeling soared into the sky. 20 hours later, a golden ray around 7 inches long and 1 inch wide floated out from the golden glow that resembled an ancient sun. It slowly flew toward Qin Nan. In the end, it flew into Qin Nan's body and swam around him. Currently, Qin Nan's body was transparent, while Chen Fenghua was in the outside world. He was able to see the path of the golden ray clearly. Almost instantly, Chen Fenghua sensed that the golden light was not moving randomly. Instead, there was a great mystery hidden in each of its trajectories. Chen Fenghua immediately let out a sigh. He performed a hand seal with both hands, as his eyes gradually turned gray. What he needed to do now was to thoroughly understand the mystery behind it. Is this the aura of the primary force? Meanwhile, Qin Nan's heart began to shudder. He could clearly feel that the golden light was like a real power, and also like the countless truths of the world. Every time it flowed through his body, he could feel the profoundness within, but he didn't know how to describe it. The primary force of the heavens and earth is indeed extraordinary. Qin Nan exclaimed in his heart. He somehow thought of Tsang. He remembered that Tsang's Heaven Monarch art was closely related to the primary force. When the Heaven Monarch art reached the greater success stage, it would receive a great boost from the primary force in the 33 small immortal realms. It could even control a portion of the primary force. It was known as the Son of the Primary Force. If it reached the perfect stage, it would be the master of the primary force in the 33 small immortal realms, hence it was known as the Heaven Monarch. One had to admit that Tsang could rely on his own strength to create such a terrifying cultivation method. It could be seen how terrifying Tsang's understanding and attainments in martial arts were. Qin Nan had a feeling that his martial arts talent was no match for Tsang's. But what difference would it make? He would not back off and submit to Tsang. Tsang, you're practicing the Heaven Monarch art, but I'm practicing the great Tongtian art. Qin Nan's eyes were engulfed in flames. Perhaps it was his destiny. It would depend on whether the Heaven Monarch art or the great Tongtian art was stronger. Having this thought, Qin Nan calmed his thoughts and focused on cultivating. He still had a long way to go on his current path. Time gradually passed. 26 years were gone in the blink of an eye. It was the 2030th year of the sacred heaven calendar. In the eyes of many experts of the later generations, these 26 years were undoubtedly the best period of time for the cultivators of the primary upper realm. Starting from the year 205, as long as one's cultivation base had reached the human immortal realm, the cultivators who were a little more observant would gradually realize that there were more opportunities for them to fight for that could change their fate. Moreover, they didn't know when it started, but the realms that they thought were difficult to break through in the past were inexplicably not difficult anymore. According to the news he heard, many of his fellow Taoists had reached that inconceivable realm. He didn't know when it started, but their daily interactions revolved around fortuitous encounters, breakthroughs, martial skills, and so on. Topics like romance were rarely brought up. The change did not only apply to the ordinary cultivators, but also the authorities and geniuses of various factions. Almost all the rulers of the major forces had discovered one thing. Whether it was the harvest of the entire force, the benefits obtained, the experts that appeared, or the geniuses that appeared, they were all much better than before. Many of the rules that they had set in the past were now at this level. Duan was not enough, so he had to raise the bar. In addition to it, the authorities and geniuses of various factions were improving rapidly every day. Every once in a while they would improve significantly. The authorities were able to explore the Blue Dome a lot more smoothly than before. They were able to reap more benefits too. The ranking battles between the geniuses had become even more intense. Almost every day there would be a significant change in the ranking of the geniuses. These big and small situations made the spirit of the Heavenly Pole list and the top leaders of the Holy Heavenly Sect, who had been observing, very happy. Without a doubt, their efforts over the years had finally yielded a shocking result. Although the general trend of martial Tao was illusory and without substance, they could vaguely see an incomparably resplendent golden light slowly rising in the entire primary upper realm. Meanwhile, the 32nd small immortal realm, on the dojo of a small faction, a woman in a white dress with a slender figure, fair skin, and attractive facial features was sprinting in all directions at a shocking pace, leaving a series of afterimages and a faint fragrance in the air. The woman had broken through the bottleneck and achieved the human immortal realm. She was currently practicing an immortal art. Around an hour later, the woman finally came to a stop. She had used up more than half of her immortal force during the cultivation, but her golden eyes showed no signs of fatigue. Instead, they shone even more brilliantly. Under this pair of eyes, everything in the surroundings seemed to have lost its luster. Shaoli, Mr. Zhou is here again. Do you want to meet him? An old man came up from the other side with a kind smile. Why is it him again? No, I won't see him, Shaoli frowned. The old man's smile widened. He said, I've observed this Mr. Zhou. Not only does he come from a good background, he's very talented too. Besides, he's quite a nice person too. He's quite considerate of you too. Why aren't you interested in such a talented man? Could it be that you're thinking of your savior? Shaoli blushed. She said, Grandfather, what are you talking about? I'm only interested and grateful to my savior. I don't have any romantic feelings for him. Grandfather, seriously, why do you only talk about romantic feelings with me every day? I just want to focus on becoming stronger and become a Nine Heavens Supreme as soon as possible. Shaoli shook her head with a smile. She said, "All right, I won't talk about it anymore. I'll reject Mr. Zhou on your behalf." Only then did Shaoli beam with joy and say, "Grandfather is still the best to me." With that, she returned to her courtyard and lay down on a spirit bed. She took out a jade slip. She reached out and gently wiped it for a while, then put the jade slip into the depths of her storage bag, and took out another jade slip. It's been 3 days since I last checked it. I wonder what happened in the primary upper realm during this time. Shaoli released her divine sense and inspected the scroll. She and her grandfather had been staying here since the incident at Haoyue Ascending Sky City. It was also when she finally had the chance to learn about martial arts. When she reached Emperor Wu's level, her grandfather gave her the Immortal Badge. Anything that happened in the primary upper realm would be recorded in the Immortal Badge. Since then, apart from special occasions, she would check the scroll almost every day. Although she was currently in a very remote place, she felt as though she was in the midst of a vast martial path every time she saw the news. She felt as though she was witnessing the changes of the world, which often made her blood boil with excitement. When she inspected the scroll with her divine sense, she immediately saw a line of crimson words. Did something happen? Her spirit was shaken as she looked over with rapt attention. When she saw it clearly, her golden eyes immediately rippled. The Heaven Highness tree, is it going to appear in a month's time? The cultivators in the primary upper realm were not going to have a peaceful time today. In addition to Shaoli, there were many cultivators in various corners of the primary upper realm who saw the line of crimson word. At this moment, an unprecedented storm was stirred up rapidly. This short piece of news was transmitted to everyone's ears at an astonishing speed. The battle of the Heaven Highness realm is coming again. Who would have thought? It's been 30 years since the last battle of the Heaven Highness realm. I wonder which 10 people are going to claim the Heaven Highness realm in this battle of the Heaven Highness realm. Damn, the battle of the Heaven Highness realm this time is going to be insane. Song, Zhou Di, Huang Fuju, and Yi Zhaoxian are going to take part in it. Gasp, these 4 exceptional geniuses are surely going to claim one of the spots. Hee, it's not just the 4 of them. Don't forget, there's still Shinrua. She's currently ranked in the top 40 on the Heaven Pole ranking. She's only 5 spots away from them. In addition to that, 4 other geniuses in the top 100 of the Heaven Pole ranking have also made it to the Battle of the Heaven Pole ranking. Such a grand occasion has never happened before. Damn it, I really want to break through to the ruler realm. Even if I can't take part in the Battle of the Heavens, it's more than enough to observe from afar. Yeah. Zhou Di and Yi Zhaoxian aren't fond of Tsang. Even if there are 10 Heaven Highness trees in the Battle of the Heaven Highness realm, I'm afraid it's still going to be a great battle. I wonder who's going to win. You're all thinking the wrong way, that's not all. Everyone knows how strong the 4 geniuses are, and how strong Shinrua is. What about the other geniuses during the Battle of the Heaven Highness realm? How are they going to react? I'm afraid there's going to be an unprecedented team-up. Tisk tsk, if that's the case, I'm afraid Sang and the others will also choose to team up. Fellow cultivator, don't say such nonsense. Exceptional geniuses like Tsang and Zhou Di are all proud and arrogant people. Since they don't like each other, they definitely won't team up. What are you talking about? If they could team up, why would they team up? Wouldn't it be better to wait until they become heavenly venerates to settle the score? That's the difference between you and them. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that every time the battle of the heavenly venerates came, the entire primary upper realm would cast their eyes on it, regardless of whether they were top powerhouses or ordinary existences. However, The battle of the heavenly venerates this time was more exciting than expected. It attracted a lot more attention. Chapter 24:11. At the same time, the 8 great heavenly venerate families, the 9 great heavenly venerate orthodoxies, and the other major factions were all in motion. The wills of the patriarchs, sect masters, and grand elders all descended to secretly plan. Sigh, let the 3 of them give up on this heavenly venerate battle. Song, Zhou Di, Huangfu Ju, Yi Zhaoxian, and the Heart ruler alone will take up 5 spots. There are only 5 spots left. If they want to compete, it will be too intense. The risk of dying is even greater. But won't it affect their wills if they give up just like that? No matter what, the 3 of them are still in the top 200 of the Sky Pole list. They can only become powerful after experiencing the tempering of blood and fire. Say no more. It's settled. Where there's life, there's hope. It's only 30 years. Besides, we can't afford to gamble now. No matter what, we have to go to this heavenly venerate battle. I believe that the other major factions and those geniuses have also realized the same problem. Therefore, it's hard to say how the battle will change when the time comes. Although we can only compete for the remaining 5 heavenly venerate trees, the situation is too intense and the risk is a little high. However, no matter what, you have to make a trip, even if you don't get anything. Sigh, the strength of those 5 people is really too strong. Ordinary peak heavenly venerates are no longer their match. In this battle, unless the 5 of them are enemies, the other 5 will be divided. Send a voice transmission to those old geezers and ask them to come over and discuss this matter with us. Now that the martial path of the entire primary upper realm is flourishing, no one will be able to bear it if a genius dies. Let's not talk about whether an alliance can guarantee that they will obtain the heavenly venerate trees. There's no need to say anything. Under the current circumstances, we can only rely on their luck. What we can do now is follow the original plan and open that place so that their strength will soar. All sorts of decisions were made. One by one, the colossal creatures began to move at an astonishing speed in an orderly manner. One had to know that in order to be called a major faction in the primary upper realm, it had to have at least a few hundred years of accumulation and a heavenly venerate powerhouse overseeing it. Therefore, they had experienced many heavenly venerate battles and already had a set of mature method. The only difference this time was that the heavenly venerate battle was extraordinarily grand. It didn't take long for the sovereigns who were able to participate in this event, as well as those who ranked at the top of the celestial pole list, to find out about this news. This day has finally come, heavenly venerate tree. Don't even think about the battle of the heavenly venerates this time. Given our current cultivation bases, it's impossible for us to escape from there. There's no need for us to participate in the battle of the heavenly venerates. Although the battle of the heavenly venerates this time is extremely dangerous, I still have to go and take a look. As long as I can see Tsang, Zhou Di, and the others fight, it will be worth it. In these 10 years, I haven't been able to comprehend that move. However, I have a feeling that as long as I attend the heavenly venerate battle, I will surely be able to comprehend it. Ha ha, heavenly venerate battle, you are finally here. Based on the situation of the heavenly venerate battle, the number of geniuses that have fallen is going to be shocking. My technique can finally reach the perfect stage. Some people were excited, some were worried, some were eager to fight, and some even chose to withdraw. However, unbeknownst to everyone, in a mysterious place, there was a towering tree that reached into the clouds. The branches and leaves of the tree were extremely dense. They spread in all directions like a giant web. In addition to that, every leaf on the tree was extremely strange. The leaves were densely packed with runes and emitted a faint suction force. It absorbed the immortal intent in the surroundings of the towering tree, causing the immortal intent around it to reach a shocking level. It was also because of this that many powerful demonic beasts had built nests here to cultivate. However, this day was destined to be different. Some beasts that were cultivating in seclusion suddenly opened their eyes in confusion as they sensed something. The reason being that they had sensed a slight change in the aura of the tree. They observed it for a while and did not notice anything out of the ordinary. Did they sense it wrongly? As they were about to continue cultivating in seclusion, they noticed the tree trembling slightly. What's wrong with the sacred tree? Why is it moving? The beasts discussed with one another. They had stayed on the sacred tree for at least 10 years, yet they had never seen anything like it. Soon, they discovered a shocking fact. The tree began to shake even more violently. Furthermore, every single leaf was releasing an astonishing aura. Furthermore, the aura was climbing up at an extremely fast speed. All the demonic beasts suddenly had a bad premonition in their hearts. Without any hesitation, they let out a series of cries and circulated the energy in their bodies. They charged in all directions in a majestic and spectacular manner. They came to a stop when they reached a certain distance away and turned around. Following it, they witnessed an astonishing sight. The sacred tree seemed to have woken up from an eternal slumber. The light it emitted lit up the surroundings. The shocking aura it unleashed shook the heavens and earth, causing the wind to change rapidly. The trunk, branches, and leaves began to change tremendously. An hour later, the changes finally came to a stop. The aura slowly dissipated, and the light slowly faded away. When the light completely disappeared, the eyes of the beasts widened simultaneously. The place where the towering tree used to be had turned into a giant pit. A long-haired young man stood above the pit. Even though the young man did not emit any sort of aura, all of the beasts felt a sense of familiarity from him, as well as an incomparably heavy pressure. Whoosh! The young man's eyes slowly opened. It felt like a godly glow was emitted from them. Phew! Is this day finally here? The young man murmured to himself. His lips curled upward as he waved his hand in the direction of the beasts. He turned into a peerless immortal ray and soared into the clouds, leaving the beasts looking at one another in dismay. Meanwhile, in a mysterious forbidden ground in the first immortal realm, bang! A deafening sound rang out as an unimaginably terrifying ripple charged out from the depths of space in the distance. It impacted the entire world, causing the mysterious existences in all directions to prostrate themselves on the ground as they trembled in fear. A while later, when everything calmed down, 2 figures flew out from the rift. Their foreheads were covered in sweat and they were panting heavily. Master, what happened just then? Is it done or not? A young monk with delicate features asked hurriedly. The other young man in a white robe with sharp brows and bright eyes said with a prideful grin, "Old Bai, do you even need to tell me that? How could there be anything that I can't handle when I'm here? I've claimed the undying cycle mountain." The young man was overjoyed. Really? Master, congratulations to you. The undying cycle mountain is on par with the Heaven Peak ranking. Now that you've claimed it, defeating Tsang is going to be a piece of cake. Meanwhile, an ancient map flew out of the young man's divine sense. An old man with a glowing body came out of the map and said, "Little Bai, don't you know what kind of person he is? Why did you trust him so easily?" The young man was startled. The young man in a white robe snapped angrily, "Jia Yi, when did I offend you? I was just bragging in front of old Bai, yet you're going to expose me?" Jia Yi rolled his eyes. He chose to ignore the young man's anger. The young man chuckled and said, "Master, is what Jia Yi said true?" The young man in a white robe coughed and said, "Old Bai, how could you trust him? As for the undying cycle mountain, this king has indeed taken it. However, the mountain spirit of the undying cycle mountain was only able to help me pass the final stage after I achieved the Heaven Highness realm. However, you don't know. He didn't know that with his master's talent, becoming a celestial venerable was a sure thing. As for the final stage, it shouldn't be a problem either. The young man scoffed and said, "Can you be any more shameless? Does this mean that we've wasted so much time and now we've gained nothing?" The young man frowned and said, "Master, there's only a month left before the Heavenly Highness battle begins. We've wasted almost a year this time. Song's cultivation must have improved greatly, so we have to think of a way." Before he could finish, the young man in a white robe chuckled and said, "Old Bai, who says we haven't gained anything in a year?" The young man and Jia Yi were startled. Hadn't they been conquering the undying cycle mountain for almost a year? How had they gained anything? The young man in a white robe reached out his hand. A mysterious aura was emitted from it. "You're underestimating me. Although I haven't completely conquered the undying cycle mountain this year, I haven't been idle. My impenetrable sacred flesh has had a breakthrough. I've refined the indestructible will of eternity." The young man and Jia Yi were startled. They could not believe it. Meanwhile, in a demonic mountain range in another small immortal realm, whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Suddenly, the sound of something breaking through the air rang out. One figure after another came from afar, descending on the mountain range. The cultivations of the figures had all reached the ruler realm. Their auras were identical too. They were all demonic intent. The demonic path in the primary upper realm was on the decline. Only a few people were able to achieve the ruler realm. The figures here basically accounted for half of the rulers of the demonic path. "Senior, why did you summon us here?" "I don't know. It might be because of the Heavenly Highness battle." "That's right, with Senior leading us to the Heavenly Highness battle, we have a better chance." These figures spoke one after another, and their tones were filled with excitement. Clearly, their choice back then was extremely correct. Right at this moment, everyone present suddenly felt something, and their gazes simultaneously turned towards the depths of the mountain range. Is that, just as they were feeling confused, a series of explosions were heard. An incomparably terrifying aura suddenly burst out from within and soared into the clouds, causing the entire place to darken. The eyes of the crowd widened. They felt a great pressure that they had never felt before. It felt like they were suffocating. Following it, they saw a figure slowly walking toward them from the mountain range. They were extremely familiar with the figure. It was none other than one of the 4 exceptional geniuses whom they were following, Master Huang Fuju. However, the Huang Fuju today was completely different from the Huang Fuju they usually saw. Behind Huang Fuju was an enormous black vortex. It unleashed a tremendous demonic intent and the cries of demons and deities. My master, are you?" the crowd blurted out in a trembling voice as they recalled something. Not bad. After 30 years of deducing, I've finally deduced the second half of the martial art," Huang Fuju said calmly. "Congratulations, Senior." Everyone's heart skipped a beat. Then, they all revealed looks of surprise. The demonic martial art that Huang Fuju had invented was already extremely terrifying when it was only the general outline. How terrifying would it be now that he had completed the second half? They could almost imagine the rise of their demonic path. Don't be too happy yet. Even though I've already created the second half, it's extremely difficult to cultivate it to the greater success stage, let alone the perfect stage. Huang Fuju waved his hand and said. Even though Huang Fuju did not show any emotion on his face, he was extremely excited in his heart. That was right. Even though he had yet to master the art of the immortal demon to the greater success stage, a complete martial art was incomparable to an incomplete martial art. Now that he had perfected the art of the immortal demon, his combat strength had increased by several times. Alright, there's no need to talk about it. There's only a month left until the Battle of the Heaven Highnesses. All of you, go and pay your respects to the demon ancestor. After that, all of you will enter the mountain. I will personally guide all of you and strive to raise your battle prowess to another level. Huang Fuju waved his hand and said. Chapter 24:12. Time passed quickly. 20 days had passed. During this period of time, the various major factions were constantly on the move. Many experts and geniuses chose to stake everything on a single throw at this time, taking huge risks to make a breakthrough in order to raise their battle strength at this final juncture. It was worth mentioning that all kinds of gambling games, big and small, were held in every corner of the primary upper realm. Many famous names were used by cultivators of all sizes to place their bet. Of course, the odds for Tsang, Zhou Di, Huangfuju, Yi Zhaoxian, and the Shinru ruler were different from ordinary people's. There was no option to bet on their success. They could only bet on their failure. Furthermore, the odds were shockingly high. On this day, the spirit of the celestial pole leaderboard had a slightly ugly expression. Logically speaking, it should be in a good mood, as the rankings of the various geniuses on the sky pole roll had been constantly improving over the past few months. However, this was mainly because of Lin Xiaoji. It had been a full 26 years since Lin Xiaoji started her seclusion. The Battle of the Heavenly Venerates was only 10 days away, yet Lin Xiaoji still hadn't made any moves. There was no doubt that the spirit of the celestial pole list was very disappointed. Actually, out of respect for Moon Whisper and the fact that Lin Xiaoji's talent was pretty good, the spirit of the celestial pole list had made an exception and allowed Lin Xiaoji to cultivate for 100 years on the sky pole roll's origin source power. The spirit of the celestial pole list had wanted Lin Xiaoji to master the general outline of the Datong sky art before the Battle of the Heavenly Venerates because of another reason. During the Battle of the Heavenly Venerates, Tsang, Zhou Di, and the other 4 geniuses would definitely become Heavenly Venerate. Once they became Heavenly Venerates, the entire structure of the primary upper realm would undergo a tremendous change. In addition, these 5 exceptional geniuses would definitely not stop moving forward. They would definitely enter the Blue Dome. When the time came, it would be hard to say what kind of storm the 5 of them would stir up after entering the Sky Dome. If Lin Xiaoji missed the Battle of the Heavenly Venerates, he would have to wait another 30 years. There would be a 30-year gap between him and the other 5 geniuses. This difference was something that Lin Xiaoji would never be able to catch up with no matter how hard she tried. In other words, in the future, Lin Xiaoji would definitely live in the shadows of the 5 people. She would not be able to truly become the leader of the era in the major upper realm. Sigh, maybe my expectations for him were a little too high. The spirit of the celestial pole list sighed inside as she stopped. Forget it, forget it. The spirit of the celestial pole list shook its head. He originally wanted to forcefully interrupt Lin Xiaoji's cultivation, but when it came time to do it, he couldn't bring himself to do it. After all, Lin Xiaoji was the successor of Moon Whisper. Just as he was about to turn around and leave, he suddenly felt something. Although that aura was extremely small compared to the source energy of the celestial pole roll and was almost undetectable, that aura was completely new and different. It had unlimited room for growth in the future. TSK, this brat, trying to affect my mood by practicing some lousy technique. The spirit of the celestial pole list jokingly scolded. Her figure immediately flickered and appeared above the source energy that was like an ancient sun. Brother Tian, you're here. Chen Fenghua immediately rose to his feet and bowed. Brother Tian. Another voice was heard. The spirit of the celestial pole list looked toward the voice. Even with his current cultivation, his eyes could not help but widen at a glance. Qin Nan's appearance had not changed at all compared to when he first came in. Only his eyes had become brighter, as if they could see through one's heart. His cultivation had also reached the peak ruler realm. If it were another peak ruler or a heaven venerable, they would not be able to see any clues from Qin Nan's appearance, but the celestial pole roll could clearly see it. Everything in Qin Nan's body, including the power of rules, the power of his divine sense, the power of his soul, and so on, had undergone tremendous changes. He was like a human and like a source. No matter where he was a unique and incomparably inconceivable existence. Judging from your appearance, you've finally mastered the first step of the law-defying technique. The spirit of the celestial pole list immediately reacted with a smile. I've mastered the general outline of the heavenly harmonization technique. It's all thanks to Brother Tian. If it wasn't for... Qin Nan brought his fists together and said sincerely. However, before he could finish, the spirit of the celestial pole list suddenly vanished and reappeared in front of him, throwing a punch in Qin Nan's direction. Qin Nan immediately felt an indescribable pressure, as well as a terrifying force that was about to burst out from the tip of the fist. Whoosh! Qin Nan's figure disappeared with a flicker. He reappeared on the other side and dodged the punch. Kid, do you really think you can escape from my fist? The spirit of the celestial pole list's laughter echoed above Qin Nan as it threw a terrifying punch at him. Qin Nan's aura changed all of a sudden. It became chaotic while his appearance turned slightly transparent too. Bang! It felt like a shocking clap of thunder had struck the place. Strong gusts surged in all directions. The spirit of the celestial pole list's punch went through Qin Nan's body and landed in the air. It did not inflict any damage to Qin Nan. Oh! The spirit of the celestial pole list raised its eyebrows slightly. The punch it threw was strong enough to kill a peak ruler realm or a heaven highness in the early stage. What's your condition now? The spirit of the celestial pole list asked curiously. Although I've completely become the origin force, I'm still a human. It's slightly different from the origin force we know. If I have to give a definition, it's the body of origin, right? Qin Nan scratched his head and said, Body of origin? The spirit of the celestial pole list was stunned for a moment. It could not help but burst out laughing. Moon Whisper, that kid, has really created an amazing cultivation technique. In that case, the 10 ancient bodies are going to become the 10 ancient bodies? After laughing, the spirit of the celestial pole list patted Qin Nan's shoulder and praised, Not bad, kid, you did very well this time. You didn't let me down. Qin Nan shook his head and said, Actually, it's mainly because of Senior Moon Whisper and Brother Tian. If it weren't for Senior Moon Whisper creating such a heaven-defying cultivation technique, Brother Tian, you... The spirit of the celestial pole list rolled its eyes and said, Come on, don't give me that. Chen Fenghua walked over and said with a smile, Brother Lin, you don't have to be polite with Brother Tian. The more polite you are to him, the more anxious he will be with you. The spirit of the celestial pole list nodded with satisfaction and said, Little Chen understands me. Chen Fenghua continued to smile and said, So, Brother Tian, you came here this time because the battle of the celestial masters is about to begin, so you want to give Brother Lin a big gift. For example, teach Brother Lin a few moves or give Brother Lin some treasures to help Brother Lin. The spirit of the celestial pole list was stunned for a moment, and then scolded with a smile, Kid, when did you have so many tricks up your sleeve? You're actually starting to scheme against me? Since you've said it like this, it seems that I have to take out something. How about this, Kid Lin, you go first. It's almost time, it'll be too late if you don't leave now. As for the big gift, I'll give it to you when the time comes. Saying this, the spirit of the celestial pole list did not forget to look at Chen Fenghua and said, So? Are you satisfied now? Chen Fenghua did not feel embarrassed at all as he said, Yes, yes. If Brother Tian were to prepare another gift for me. The spirit of the celestial pole list's face darkened as it said, Go away, if you want a big gift, go to Old Purple, don't come to me. Qin Nan could not help but smile seeing this. Brother Tian, Fenghua, I'll be on my way. Qin Nan calmed his thoughts and said. His eyes vaguely flickered with a flicker. Sure, Brother Lin, I'll wait for your good news. Chen Fenghua said. I'll bring you out now. The spirit of the celestial pole list nodded and placed its hand on Qin Nan's shoulder, before vanishing into thin air. Meanwhile, in an ancient forbidden ground, countless snowflakes drifted down from the depths of the sky. If one observed carefully, they would discover that deep inside the core of every snowflake, there were dense, ancient characters written in a scribbled script. The snow had been falling since 3,000 years ago. It had never stopped since then. 3,000 years ago, the place was still filled with birds, flowers, herbs, and beasts. However, it had now turned into a bottomless icy plain, with no sign of life. Bang, bang, bang! All of a sudden knocking sound echoed in the area. It gradually grew louder and louder. Around half the period it took an incense to burn, following a final blast, the icy plain within a few thousand li shattered into pieces. A figure in a black robe jumped out from it. Damn it, I'm finally out of that godforsaken place. The figure cursed and raised his head, revealing a pair of sharp eyes and a handsome face. If Qin Nan was here, he would recognize the person as the ruler of heart. Well, it's not a wasted trip, at least my cultivation, and the ruler of heart's lips curled upward. A brilliant glow burst out of his body, stirring the snowflakes in the sky. The icy plain began to tremble, as if a great calamity was about to descend and destroy everything. I wonder if I can catch up to them with my current strength? The ruler of heart murmured. The them he was referring to were Tsang, Zhou Huangfuju, and Yi Zhaoxian. The 4 mountains that had been looming over him were the only mountains that he had failed to overcome despite trying a few dozen times. Time to go. The ruler of heart collected his thoughts after a while. He withdrew his aura and disappeared into the rift. When he left the ancient forbidden ground, he did not realize that the heavy snow that had not stopped for thousands of years had stopped falling from the sky. When the last snowflake landed on the ice field, the entire ice field started to melt at an alarming speed. It had found the fated person it had been looking for. There was no need for it to continue. Meanwhile, at the eastern end of the 33rd small immortal realm, there was a mysterious cave that had existed for more than 10,000 years. It was called the Immortal Demon Cave. Legend had it that there was a shocking secret at the end of the Immortal Demon Cave. If anyone could find the secret, they would be able to alter their destiny and become a peerless expert. Over the years, many cultivators had visited the cave because of its reputation. However, without exception, neither the human immortals nor the rulers of Tao had ever come out after entering the cave. Even when they tried to transmit their thoughts through the immortal badges, they never received any response. As time passed, the Immortal Demon Cave was referred to as the Dead Cave. Many cultivators treated it as a forbidden place. No one dared to set foot in it. However, little did they know, at the bottom of the Immortal Demon Cave, there was a young man on an ancient, spacious dojo that was embedded with countless fiery red immortal crystals. The young man was sitting with his legs crossed with his eyes closed. His aura was chaotic. If any cultivator were to look down further, they would see an astounding sight at the bottom of the dojo. Below the dojo was a boundless colorful space. At the center of it was a silver glow like an ancient star floating in the air. Every wisp of light inside it was constantly changing. Each time it changed, the power it unleashed would reach a terrifying level. The secret of the Immortal Demon Cave was that the glow was the primary force of the 33rd small immortal realm. The mysterious young man was using the primary force of the 33rd small immortal realm to practice some kind of cultivation. Whoosh! The young man's eyes sprang open all of a sudden. 2 brilliant immortal rays burst out from them. Is there not much time left? It seems like I'll have to stop here. The young man murmured. He reached out his right hand and waved it forward. An ancient pattern made of countless golden rays slowly appeared in front of him. On the ancient pattern were 33 purple rays the size of a fist that were flickering. Well, it's not a bad outcome. I've finally completed the first half of the Immortal Demon art. The young man wore a faint smile. He rose to his feet and flew into the sky. Hang on, now that I've completed the first half, shouldn't I give the immortal demon art a name? It's too boring to call it the nameless art. I can't show it off to others. The young man suddenly realized something while flying. What should I call it? The 33 Heavens Divine Art of Creations? The strongest art of the 33 heavens? No way. Chapter 24:13. Time gradually passed. 3 days later, in the first immortal realm, luminous moon ascending city, since the news about the Battle of Heaven Highnesses spread across the primary upper realm, many cultivators had made their way to the city every day. Luminous Moon Ascending City did not restrict the cultivators' cultivation, nor did it allow anyone to fight in the city. As such, apart from the rulers of Tao, many cultivators whose cultivation was not high enough had made their way to the city too. Some wanted to witness the talents of the geniuses, while others wanted to know the news as soon as possible. All kinds of news. As a result, the number of cultivators gathered in Luminous Moon Ascending City had reached an unprecedented level. When the various major factions saw this situation, they had no choice but to join forces and send out their disciples to guard the city gate. If their cultivation had not reached the ruler realm, they would not be allowed to enter the city. Meanwhile, in a 5-floored inn in the city, by the window on the top floor, a woman quietly sat there and looked outside the window. She didn't move at all and didn't even take a sip of the celestial wine in front of her. The woman was wearing a white dress with the dream immortal flower printed on it, revealing her delicate collarbones. Unfortunately, the woman was wearing a pink veil. It only revealed a pair of glamorous eyes. No one could see her true appearance. The cultivators on the same floor would occasionally look over. This woman had already been sitting there for 6 hours. During this time, she had not moved at all. It was indeed a bit strange. However, no one went up to disturb her. The faint aura she was emitting was that of a peak ruler realm cultivator. Yu Qing, sorry to keep you waiting. At this moment, a young man wearing a bamboo robe and holding a jade fan with a gentle temperament walked over from the distance and sat opposite the woman with a warm smile on his face. That young man looks like Mr. Ling Sun? That's right, it's Mr. Ling Sun. In these few years, it can be said that he has made rapid progress. Now, he's already ranked 204th on the celestial poll list. Some cultivators recognized Mr. Ling Sun and whispered among themselves. Yu Qing, it's been 10 years since we last met, right? Mr. Ling Sun asked. Xiao Yueqing glanced at him and nodded. She then looked out of the window. Yu Qing, what are you looking at? To observe the geniuses who came here this time? Sir Ling Sun asked. He looked out of the window and saw a young man with short black hair. He said in surprise, that's Wu Patian? Then he thought of something and said, Yu Qing, this Wu Patian isn't a simple person. He was the last disciple of an Empyrean powerhouse. His combat strength was extremely powerful. Also, I heard people in the sect say that Wu Patian didn't enter the Heavens poll ranking because his master didn't allow it. It's all for the sake of not attracting the attention of others during the Celestial Venerables battle. Then, you can surprise everyone with a single brilliant feat. Xiao Yueqing glanced at Wu Patian and said, that's quite powerful. Young Master Ling Sun smiled and said, however, I feel that he shouldn't be a match for you. Speaking of which, when I entered the city this time, I saw Yi Zhaoxian. You must have heard the commotion outside the city gate, right? Speaking up to this point, young Master Ling Sun lamented, I have to say that Yi Zhaoxian and the others are indeed extraordinary. Not to mention his cultivation, just the aura he exudes is enough to make me feel ashamed of myself. However, this Yi Zhaoxian is too ruthless. He almost annihilated his own clansmen. Xiao Yueqing didn't speak. She was still looking at the people coming and going below, seemingly lost in thought. Young Master Ling Sun sighed softly in his heart. She wasn't like this 10 years ago. Yu Qing, you've been looking below not to observe the so-called geniuses, but to see Brother Lin, right? Young Master Ling Sun asked softly. A ripple appeared in Xiao Yueqing's beautiful eyes, but it was quickly concealed. Young Master Ling Sun, I've almost forgotten about Lin Xiaoji. I sent him a voice transmission more than 20 years ago, but he said he was going into seclusion and there was no more news from him. Xiao Yueqing shook her head. Did you send him a voice transmission after that? Young Master Ling Sun asked. I haven't looked for him since 10 years ago. Anyway, he's in seclusion and won't say where he's in seclusion. Xiao Yueqing said faintly. Yes, I've been sending him a voice transmission. He replied to me 3 days ago. Young Master Ling Sun said. What did he say? Xiao Yueqing shifted her gaze and looked at young Master Ling Sun again. Young Master Ling Sun couldn't help but sigh again. She said she had forgotten, but she hadn't. She would only say so much when talking about Lin Xiaoji. She would only look at him when she was talking about Lin Xiaoji. Young Master Ling Sun calmed down and said. He said his seclusion is over and he's rushing here. He should be arriving soon. Now that I think about it, we haven't seen him for almost 30 years. I wonder how his closed-door cultivation went this time. Why don't I send him a voice transmission and have him come here directly? Xiao Yueqing quickly waved her hand and said, No, there's no need. Young Master Ling Sun was slightly stunned. Xiao Yueqing's beautiful eyes were dazed for a moment before she slowly said, We haven't seen each other for so many years. If we meet again, it might be a little awkward. Young Master Ling Sun frowned and said, Well, Yueqing, aren't you? Xiao Yueqing's eyebrows curved into a beautiful arc. Although he couldn't see her face clearly, young Master Ling Sun knew she was smiling. Young Master Ling Sun, there's really no need for that. I came here this time to become a heavenly venerate. I don't have any other thoughts. Why don't we enter the battlefield now? Let's go take a look and observe earlier. Saying that, she stood up. Okay then. Young Master Ling Sun paused and nodded. At the same time, on another street. Fellow Taoist, this thing is not bad. Why don't you sell it to me? A young man in a black robe walked in front of a vendor and took a fancy to a bronze statue. Sure. However, this item is related to a Tao transformation, heavenly venerate. Just as the vendor was about to set a price, another voice sounded. I'll be taking this thing. Behind the young man were 2 men and a woman. The person leading the group was a handsome young man in a golden-lined robe. His aura had reached the greater success stage of the ruler realm. The other man and woman were both in the early stage of the ruler realm. Hey brother, don't you know what first come, first served is? The young man in a black robe frowned. Oh, I'm sorry, this statue is very important to me. I have to take it down. How about this? I'll give you 3,000 immortal flame crystals, and you'll give it to me. The young man in a golden-lined robe said casually. I'm sorry, I'm not giving it to you. The young man in a black robe rejected without hesitation. The young man in a golden-lined robe frowned and said, Cultivator, which faction are you from? I'm a core disciple of the Chaos Taoism. Why don't you give me some face today? The Chaos Taoism was extremely influential in the primary upper realm. It was faintly showing signs of becoming the leader of the 9 Heaven Highness Taoism factions. As a result, the status of the disciples and elders in the Chaos Taoism factions had skyrocketed too. That being said, the young man in a golden-lined robe was no idiot since he was able to achieve the greater success stage of the ruler realm. He was treating the young man in a black robe with such an attitude mainly because the young man's aura was only in the early stage of the ruler realm. Give you some face? I'm sorry, even if you're the son of the patriarch of the Chaos Taoism faction, I won't give you any face, let alone the core disciple of the Chaos Taoism faction. Gu Fei wore a disdainful look. It was not like they had never beaten the son of a Heaven Highness faction's patriarch in the past 20 years. What did you say? The young man in a golden-lined robe, the man and woman behind him were startled. Did the man dare to humiliate their Chaos Taoism faction? Didn't you hear what I said? However, it's not like I can't give you some face. I can see that the junior sister behind you is quite pretty. Let her follow me for a month, and I'll give you the statue. Gu Fei chuckled. You, the young man in a golden-lined robe, and his companions wore unpleasant looks. They immediately unleashed their auras. If they were not rational enough, they would surely attack one another. The young man was too full of himself. What is it? Are you trying to hurt my brother? At this moment, a calm voice sounded in their ears. If that's the case, we don't mind leaving Haoyu's sky-ascending city to train outside. A second slightly hoarse voice rang in their ears. Who's there? How dare you challenge us? The young man in a golden-lined robe turned around furiously. However, when the three of them saw it, their pupils immediately constricted. Your ruler Ji Xian and ruler Ming Chu? The young man in a golden-lined robe could not believe his eyes. One must know that both Ji Xian and Ming Chu were extraordinary existences at the moment. They were both ranked in the top 200 of the Heaven Peak ranking. They were quite reputable among the rulers of Dao. The young man in a golden-lined robe had done his research before he came here. Oh? You know us? That's great. Do you still want to fight outside? Ji Xian asked calmly. Ugh, I'm sorry, I'm really sorry. I didn't expect him to be your brother. We'll take our leave now. The young man in a golden-lined robe's anger dissipated. He immediately turned around and left without any hesitation. His current status was indeed very high. However, when compared to the two of them, the disparity was simply too great. Boring. Gu Fei curled his lips. Boring? You're getting more and more out of hand. You're trying to steal someone's junior sister in broad daylight? Ji Xian knocked Gu Fei's head. Old Ji, why did you hit me? Wasn't it because I saw that these people were too rude, so I deliberately said those words to anger them? Didn't you see how ordinary his junior sister is? How could I be interested in her? Gu Fei complained. Ji Xian's face darkened. I was just about to say that I think his junior sister is not bad. The ancestor of Mingchu also had a serious expression. I think she's not bad too. It seems that Gu Fei's taste is much higher than ours. Ji Xian, I think there's a need to correct Gu Fei's taste. Gu Fei. F***ck, I've been tricked. The three of you are quite happy, huh? At this moment, a voice sounded behind the three of them. Gu Fei, Ji Xian, and the ancestor of Mingchu were all stunned. This familiar voice, could it be? The three of them turned around and saw Qin Nan standing not far away from them with a faint smile on his face. Damn boss. Brother Lin. Gu Fei, Ji Xian, and the ancestor of Mingchu were all delighted. They could not believe it. It had been almost 30 years since they last saw each other. Senior Ji Xian, Gu Fei, your cultivation has improved very quickly. It seems that the three of you have obtained many fortuitous opportunities and inheritances in the past 20 years. I wonder if you left a share for me? Qin Nan said with a smile. Boss, tell us first. What kind of cultivation technique are you cultivating in seclusion this time? Why did the sacred martial sect suddenly find you? What's going on? How strong is your combat strength now? To their surprise, Gu Fei, Ji Xian, and the ancestor of Mingchu chose to ignore Qin Nan's words. Instead, they all gathered in front of Qin Nan and asked in unison. Their eyes were filled with curiosity. They had been holding back these questions for more than 20 years. One had to know that when Qin Nan went into seclusion, he only told them that he was going to cultivate a new cultivation technique. However, Qin Nan's martial talent was even stronger than the Mind Dominator. To be able to make Qin Nan go into seclusion for so long, what kind of heaven-defying cultivation technique was this? Qin Nan smiled bitterly and said, "Can we ask them one by one? I'll go first." "Let me go first." "Gu Fei, do you think you haven't been beaten enough?" The three of them quarreled, and Qin Nan face-bombed. Over the past 20 years, not only had their cultivations changed, but their personalities had also changed a little. Gu Fei and Ji Xian aside, even the ancestor of Mingqiu was no longer as steady as before. All right. Stop quarreling. I'll tell you one by one." Qin Nan spread his hands and said, "However, it won't be long before the heavenly venerate tree appears. We still have to rush to the depths of the great heavenly venerate battlefield. Let's talk as we walk so that we don't waste time." "Agreed." Chapter 24:14. After that, Qin Nan explained his situation. However, the Heavenly Pole Leaderboard had sternly warned him not to reveal anything about Moon Chant's inheritance, the Book of Tao sealing changing the artifact's spirit, the origin energy of the Heavenly Pole Leaderboard, and so on. Thus he could only change his story. The general idea was that due to his martial talent and fate, he had obtained the general outline of a self-created cultivation method left behind by a senior in the Holy Heaven martial sect. He had been in seclusion for more than 20 years before he was able to master the general principles. However, just this news shocked Ji Xian, Gu Fei, and the ancestor of Ming Qiu. It took them quite a while to come back to their senses. They kept urging Qin Nan to show his cultivation method. With no other choice, Qin Nan could only show a little of his strength and completely subdue the three of them. Only then did this matter pass. Soon, it was the last day of year 2030 of the Saint Sky calendar. There was only one day left before the appearance of the 10 celestial trees. During this time, Qin Nan and the others hurried on with all their might. They had already arrived at the depths of the great Empyrean battlefield. On top of that, it was worth mentioning that Qin Nan had learned a lot about the 10 Heaven Highness trees from Ji Xian. Qin Nan had always thought that the 10 Empyrean trees grew somewhere in the Empyrean battlefield. It was just that they would only bloom and bear fruit every 30 years. But in reality, that was not the case. Under normal circumstances, the 10 celestial sovereign trees didn't exist anywhere in the battlefield. They would only appear once every 30 years in the depths of the battlefield. They wouldn't appear until the cultivators plucked the fruit. Only then would they disappear again, their whereabouts unknown. All this while, many powerhouses in the great upper realm had been trying to figure out where the 10 heavenly venerate trees grew. They believed that as long as they could figure out this point, then the other secrets of the 10 celestial trees would be easily solved. For example, how were the 10 celestial trees born? Why did they form the celestial fruit? Sadly, after so many years, the powerhouses have used all sorts of methods but still couldn't find a trace of it. Time gradually passed. 2 hours later, the eyes of Qin Nan and the others suddenly glittered. Almost at the same time, they sensed that at the end of the path ahead, there was an extraordinary aura that rushed into the clouds. Every aura was completely different. Some gave people a feeling of dominance, some gave people a feeling of coldness, and some gave people a feeling of incomparably ethereal. There were at least 1,000 auras. By rough estimation, there were at least 1,000 of them. That should be the land of the sacred change, Ji Xian said. Ji Xian said with a hint of excitement. The land of the sacred land was the place where the 10 Heaven Highness trees would appear every time. Everyone knew the great Empyrean heavenly pole battlefield was the heavens. Coincidentally, the 10 celestial venerate trees appeared in the extreme north of the great celestial battlefield. Since ancient times this had never changed. Qin Nan's eyes flickered as he withdrew his aura and increased his speed. A short while later, they arrived at the peak of a huge mountain. They were able to see the entirety of the land of Saint Change clearly. Oh my, even though Gu Fei had experienced many big scenes in the past 20 years, when he saw this scene, He could not help but click his tongue and feel quite shocked. In front of them was an extremely vast plain. It was filled with cracks of various sizes, and there were many strange flowers and plants growing. In many voids, there were still traces of martial wills that had yet to dissipate. On top of that, the entire plain gave off a different feeling than the rest of the great celestial battlefield. After all, this place would experience the baptism of an incomparable battle every 30 years. The various rules that originally existed here had long been shattered into pieces by the impact of the battle. However, that was not the most important thing. Most importantly, there were at least a few thousand cultivators on the valley. Some were in groups of 3 to 5, while others were alone. They were all in their own places without saying a word. Even though most of the cultivators were communicating with their divine sense, and only a few were talking with their mouths, it still felt like a cauldron of voices. Besides, most of the cultivators here were in the greater success stage or peak ruler realm. Cultivators in the early stage of the ruler realm were extremely rare in this place. It was extremely rare to see one of them. So this is the primary upper realm in the ancient era. Mingchu progenitor murmured. The impact on him was even greater than Gu Fei's. In his past life, there were only a few dozen rulers of Dao in the entire primary upper realm. However, there were a few thousand rulers of Dao in the primary upper realm, not including those who had yet to arrive. Prosperity, decline. The meaning of these two words was extremely obvious at this moment. I was right to choose to return to the ancient era. Upon seeing this, the blood in Qin Nan's body that he had not felt for a long time began to boil. Perhaps due to the rules of time and space, he would not be able to display his talents in this grand occasion. He would not be able to become the center of attention. However, it was enough for him to take part in the grand occasion. It's about time, Song and the others should be here, the thought crossed Qin Nan's mind. He activated the void-penetrating eyes and scanned the cultivators rapidly. His gaze suddenly came to a stop. His heart skipped a beat. He saw 2 young men sitting on a carpet emitting the aura of a heaven highness. Delicious food was placed in front of them. They were also holding a bottle of immortal wine. They were drinking and eating at the same time while chatting happily. They did not seem to fit in with the rest of the cultivators. They were quite casual about it. One of the young men had a different expression and aura compared to Qin Nan's past life, but Qin Nan still recognized him. He was the future strongest immortal, the Buddhist cultivator Bai Zhongxing. If the man was Bai Zhongxing, the young man who was drinking with him and the familiar feeling he gave Qin Nan was most likely one of the future 4 Supreme Highnesses, the Eternal Heaven Highness Zhou Di. Qin Nan had a complicated look. He did not know how to describe his feelings. Even though Huang Fuju was also his past life, the feeling of meeting Huang Fuju was completely different compared to meeting Zhou Di. There was a trace of strangeness, a trace of disappointment, and a trace of inexplicable warmth. Qin Nan took a deep breath to calm his thoughts. He continued to scan his surroundings. Huang Fuju and the ruler of heart are here? Soon, he saw 2 familiar figures. Furthermore, he keenly sensed that the auras emitted by the 2 of them had undergone earth-shattering changes after not seeing them for more than 20 years. It was obvious that they had made an extremely shocking breakthrough. Qin Nan's eyes suddenly widened. He subconsciously unleashed a murderous aura. He saw a young man in a white robe with a face as white as jade and a faint smile on his lips. The young man was different from Zhou Di, Huang Fuju, and the ruler of heart. There was a huge empty space around them. No cultivators were close to them. However, the young man was surrounded by a few dozen cultivators. They were chatting and laughing with one another. The atmosphere was rather harmonious. Qin Nan had never seen the young man before. His appearance was unfamiliar to him. However, Qin Nan could not be more familiar with the young man's aura. He was one of the future 4 Supreme Highnesses, Song. Brother Lin? What's wrong? Do you have an enemy? Ji Xian could not help but ask. His eyes widened as he followed Qin Nan's gaze. Nothing. Qin Nan shook his head. Now that I think about it, it seems like Tsang has yet to complete the Heaven Monarch art. Qin Nan murmured. Unfortunately, he could not go against the will of time to seize the opportunity to kill Tsang. Qin Nan continued to look around. However, he did not see Yi Zhaoxian or Celestial Tree, who was about to make a name for herself in the Battle of the Heavenly Venerates. It was possible that they were not here yet. It was also possible that they were very different from the ones Qin Nan knew in the future. Brother Lin, don't just stare at them. Many top geniuses have appeared in the primary upper realm during the 20 years you were in seclusion. 6 of them have entered the top 150 of the Heaven Pole leaderboard. Ji Xian calmed himself down and said, 6 of them? Qin Nan was surprised. Entering the top 150 of the Heaven Pole leaderboard meant that one could challenge a heavenly venerate as a peak ruler. Of course. Look at that woman over there. She's wearing a red dress and has a great figure. Her name is Yan Junqing. She's the first true disciple of Tianfang Orthodoxy and the daughter of the sect master. She's currently ranked 147th on the Heaven Pole leaderboard. About a month ago, she fought with an early-stage heavenly venerate and defeated him. I also heard that in order to ensure that she becomes a celestial sovereign, all of the sovereigns in the system will give up on this opportunity to assist her with everything they have. Also, on the other side, there's a pale-faced young man in gray robes. His name is Yin Fanghan, and he's the young master of the heavenly Yin clan, one of the 100 great ancient clans. His master is a peak heavenly venerate 9 Yin. He's amazing. He's ranked first on the Heaven Pole leaderboard. He's ranked 32nd. About 3 years ago, when Gu Fei and I accompanied the old ancestor of the Ming dynasty to search for a fated opportunity, we ran into him and exchanged blows. Fortunately, we ran fast enough. Otherwise, we would have been defeated by him. Damn, I'm a little angry when you talk about this. That kid is a little arrogant. If you do, you'll have to teach him a lesson for us. Do you see that short-haired middle-aged man? His name is Luo Zhenhou, and he's a rogue cultivator. However, he's very lucky. 20 years ago, he obtained a complete heavenly venerate inheritance. Since then, he's ranked 142nd on the Heaven Pole leaderboard. Ji Xian had obviously put in a lot of effort. He knew all the rulers ranked in the top 200 on the Heaven Pole leaderboard and pointed them out to Qin Nan one by one. Zhan Hao, the first true disciple of 7 Solutions, ranked 139th on the Heaven Pole leaderboard. Lin Sui, the first genius of the Linglong ancient clan, ranked 137th on the Heaven Pole leaderboard. Formless old man, a mysterious rogue cultivator with an unknown background, rarely fought. He was ranked 130th on the Heaven Pole leaderboard. His true strength might be much stronger than that. Apart from that, there were also many sovereigns ranked between the 151st and 200th ranks. Qin Nan had 26 years of free time, so he listened very carefully. He also secretly used his eye technique to observe everyone Ji Xian pointed out. There was no doubt that Zhou Di, Tsang, and the others were the most dazzling in this grand event. However, the rest of the geniuses couldn't be underestimated. Most of them had mastered extraordinary paths, and some even had their own self-created cultivation methods. Regardless of which one of them was placed in the top few in the future, they would all be extremely dazzling existences. Time passed bit by bit. More and more sovereigns were rushing over from afar. Not only that, but many powerful beings who had reached the ruler realm in the heavenly venerate battleground also arrived one after another. Although they would be trapped in the heavenly venerate battleground for the rest of their lives, and the heavenly venerate fruit had no effect on them, they still wanted to witness this grand event with their own eyes. On top of that, There were also some creatures who were extremely interested in the corpses of rulers. Unknowingly, the sky had already begun to darken. Countless stars appeared in the sky, flickering between brightness and darkness. The sacred land of sacred change was in complete silence. The atmosphere was getting livelier. Every cultivator at the scene could clearly sense that a huge tide was about to rise under the current atmosphere. Finally, the night gradually receded, and the sky began to brighten. Just a little bit more and the wheel of history would roll into the 2031st year of the sacred sky calendar. Whoosh! At this moment, a vast and invisible tide surged from a mysterious place in the distance toward the land of Saint Change. Like a peerless gale, it blew at everyone, causing their robes to flutter. Qin Nan and the others were startled. They immediately looked forward. They weren't the only ones. All the cultivators in the land of sacred change turned their gazes toward that direction as well. At that instant, the whole place fell silent. Only the whistling of the wind could be heard. Chapter 24:15. Qin Nan's eyes glittered. His senses toward the heavens and earth had reached a terrifying level after he refined the flesh of origin. At that moment earlier, he'd acutely sensed that the numerous invisible laws in the entire land of saintly change seemed to be controlled by an invisible hand, and they'd undergone some sort of profound and shocking change. Then, without any warning, the dimly lit sky suddenly turned into a sea of 9 colors, illuminating every inch of space and every cultivator. Qin Nan immediately unleashed his eyes of the illusionary whole and stared ahead. In addition to him, Song, Zhou Di, Huang Fuju, Yi Zhaoxian, the Heart Ruler, the Celestial Tree, and the rest of the geniuses executed an ancient eye technique too. Every time the 10 celestial venerate trees appeared, many experts would do the same. They wanted to see through the profundities and find some clues. Following it, with his eye technique, Qin Nan saw 10 mysterious doors opening in the rift ahead. 10 overwhelming, terrifying auras as deep as the ocean appeared from the doors within an instant. In the next moment, the cultivators at the scene witnessed a shocking scene. 10 towering trees over 99,999 zhang tall suddenly appeared in the 9-colored light. Every tree looked exactly the same. There was no difference between them. Countless branches extended in all directions, intertwining with each other in the space between the heavens and earth. What was even more shocking was that every single leaf was suffused with a different light and released a different ancient aura. It made people feel that every single leaf contained the true essence of the rules and supreme principles. If one could obtain a single leaf, they would be able to benefit immensely. It was still not the end of it. The 10 Heaven Highness trees seemed to have woken up from their eternal slumber. The gigantic roots that resembled dragons slowly flew into the air and eventually plunged into the depths of the void. Dong! A faint chime of a bell took place between the heavens and earth. Qin Nan's eyes widened. He sensed a shocking absorption force from the 10 Heaven Highness trees, which absorbed the forces in the surroundings of the sacred land into the trees. The amount of energy he absorbed with each breath was terrifying. It was like a mountain or an ocean. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. At the same time, the 9 colors in the sky surged toward the 10 celestial highness trees at lightning speed, as if they were being sucked in by some invisible force. When the sky returned to normal, the cultivators saw a 9-colored flower bud over 100 zhang tall at the top of the Heaven Highness trees. The flower bud was slowly blossoming too. Every cultivator could feel the tremendous life force and the endless secrets contained in each bud, as well as the opportunity to be reborn. The land of sacred change fell silent for around 3 breaths before the cultivators finally collected their thoughts. So this is the legendary blossoming and bearing fruits. I always heard from my master that the process of blossoming and bearing fruits is nothing ordinary. I didn't believe it at first, but it's really the case. These 10 Heaven Highness trees are truly magical. I'm afraid they are the best among all the rare flowers and plants in the primary upper realm. Many people were discussing among themselves. Most of the cultivators had an inexplicable excitement on their faces. At this rate, it will only take half an hour for the Heaven Highness fruits to fully blossom, Qin Nan murmured after observing for a while. He somehow recalled how he achieved the Master Realm with the help of the Celestial Tree in the Tao-seeking land. The situation back then was quite similar to what he was experiencing now. Perhaps it was because the Celestial Tree had refined 2 Heaven Highness trees. Meanwhile, in a mysterious place on the Heaven Fate ranking, the spirit of the heavenly rankings was currently engrossed in an ancient book. Ever since Qin Nan and Chen Fenghua had left, he had been studying the secrets of this ancient book. The Celestial Highness trees have appeared? It raised its head when it sensed something. It feels like there's something else. Oh, by the way, Chen Fenghua tricked me so I should give Lin Xiaoji a gift. The spirit of the celestial pole list patted its forehead. It almost forgot about it. What should I give her? The spirit of the celestial pole list frowned. Artifact? Natural resource? No way, if it was too impressive, it would be too biased toward Lin Xiaoji, but if it was just an ordinary gift, it would only embarrass it. A martial art? That wouldn't do either. The cultivation technique it had mastered couldn't be compared to the great unity heavenly incantation in Lin Xiaoji's hands. Wait, the kid is taking part in the Battle of Heaven Highness if I... The spirit of the celestial pole list's eyes glittered as a thought crossed its mind. That's right, it's killing 3 birds with 1 stone. Not only will I be giving the kid a great gift, I'll be training him too, the spirit of the celestial pole list chuckled. Meanwhile, in the Battle of Heaven Highness, the land of sacred change, around 1,000 breaths later, 10 9-colored flower buds blossomed, illuminating the place with 9 different colors. In addition to it, all kinds of rare phenomena took place between the heavens and earth, resulting in a spectacular sight. The cultivators focused their attention on the 10 9-colored flowers. They watched as the petals withered one by one and underwent a great transformation. Finally, half an hour was up. The 10 9-colored flowers had completed their transformation. They were refined into 10 Heaven Highness fruits, emitting a strong fruity scent that lingered in the cultivators' noses. It's born. At that instant, the surging tide that the cultivators had been faintly sensing was finally unleashed. Bang bang bang! Powerful auras burst out simultaneously and soared into the sky, shattering the rare phenomena into pieces and turning them into light dots. The spacious land of sacred change began to tremble vigorously. Large pieces of the rift began to shatter on their own. The sight was indescribable with the word spectacular. Thousands of rulers of Tao unleashed their auras at the same time. If it happened in the future, it was enough to shatter the small immortal realms that were ranked at the bottom and damage their essences. However, at this moment, a brand new aura, like a peerless dragon, rushed into the depths of the clouds amidst the countless other auras. It was Tsang. Tsang had unleashed his aura. Before Tsang unleashed his aura, many cultivators were unaware of the difference between them and Tsang. However, at that instant they immediately saw the huge gap between them and Tsang. Tsang was on his own. It went without saying that he was no match for everyone, but anyone was like an ant compared to a magnificent immortal mountain. Whoosh! Tsang was the first to make his move. He turned into a brilliant ray of lightning and charged at the first Heaven Highness tree on his right at a shocking pace. In the past, when the 10 Heaven Highness fruits were produced, the cultivators would flock to the battle of the Heaven Highness realm. However, today, an incomparably strange scene appeared. Most of the cultivators didn't move at all. They just watched as Tsang charged forward. In addition to it, they did not go for the other Heaven Highness trees either. After all, apart from Tsang, there were still Zhou Di, Huang Fuju, Yi Zhaoxian, and the Heart Ruo ruler. The 5 of them were all exceptional geniuses. Their cultivations were strong enough to challenge peak Heaven Highness realm cultivators. If they rushed up and fought with these 5 people, wouldn't that be purely courting death? Ha ha ha, Jitsung, are you that impatient? A burst of loud laughter rang out. A magnificent impenetrable will burst out of Jodi's body. He unleashed a tremendous aura, causing the cultivators nearby to be startled. I haven't had enough fun from the previous battle, Jodi said calmly. Jodi calmly said. His figure vanished from the spot and reappeared above Tsang, before throwing a punch forward. Bang! A tremendous force burst out of his fist, as if it was going to destroy everything in the world. I knew it, why did you have to do this? Can't you wait until you've become a Heaven Highness so we can have a proper battle? Tsang spread his hands helplessly. Behind him, a mysterious ancient diagram slowly rose. 33 rays of light were emitted from it, emitting an ancient arcane aura. Jitsung, don't forget about me. It was also at this moment that an ethereal voice reverberated throughout the entire world. Then, they saw a young man in a green robe walking over from the distant void step by step. He was like an ancient god descending to the mortal world. The young man took out a sword and slashed forward. The sword glow seemed to devour the whole place. The young man was Yi Zhaoxian in his younger days. I know, I didn't forget about you. Tsang smiled fearlessly. He took the attack head-on. Terrifying shockwaves and shocking astral winds instantly swept out in all directions. Ha ha ha, you 3 can take your time. I'll go and achieve the Heaven Highness realm first. Huang Fuju burst out laughing. He sprang forward like a tide. Huang Fuju, you've destroyed my sword move last time. Can you do it again? However, not long after Huang Fuju left, a calm voice appeared. The figure of the ruler of hearts suddenly split into 99 clones, forming a peerless formation that surrounded Huang Fuju and sealed off his escape. There was nowhere for him to run. As a matter of fact, the ruler of heart and Huang Fuju did not hold any grudge against one another. They had only fought once. The ruler of heart could choose not to fight Huang Fuju and claim the Heaven Highness fruit to achieve the Heaven Highness realm. However, in the ruler of heart's eyes, achieving the Heaven Highness realm was not the most important thing. He had gone into seclusion for so long and gone through so many dangers and tribulations just so he could surpass himself and achieve the same level as the other 4 cultivators, or even surpass them. Great timing! I've just mastered my demonic art. I was worried that I didn't have anyone to practice it on. Huang Fuju was overjoyed. Wisps of demonic intent burst out from his back and turned the surroundings into a demonic realm. Bang bang bang! A series of explosions took place. The Battle of Heaven Highnesses had begun. However, unlike the Battle of Heaven Highnesses in the past, the brightest cultivators in the primary upper realm were fighting one another first. In other words, they only had one another as their opponent. They're fighting! The other cultivators were overjoyed. They had been dreaming of this for a long time. In that case, there were still 8 heavenly venerate trees left. They all had a chance. Let's go! At that instant, Yan Junqing, Yin Fanghan, Luo Zhenho, Zhan Hao, and the rest of the reputable geniuses, and the rulers of Dao immediately collected their thoughts and charged forward. If one were to look from afar, it would appear as if there were 8 streams surging forward. It was a shocking sight. Brother Lin, let's split up for now. Gu Fei, you will follow Senior Mingchu and help him with everything you have. Ji Xian said with an eager look. Qin Nan and Mingchu nodded. The 4 of them immediately split up. Ji Xian chose the 8th Heaven Highness tree, Mingchu chose the 7th, and Qin Nan chose the 4th. Bang bang bang! Not long after, the whole land of sacred change was filled with deafening explosions. The rift continued to turn chaotic as different kinds of martial intents collided with one another and swept across the place. What a pity, I won't be able to have a proper fight with them. Qin Nan glanced at Tsang, Huang Fuju, and the others and let out a sigh in his heart. Even though the battle blood in his body was boiling, he had no choice but to suppress it. Forget it, I'll just claim the Heaven Highness fruit and achieve the Heaven Highness realm first. Qin Nan shook his head and calmed his thoughts. However, at this moment, a voice suddenly sounded in his mind. Kid, the battle has started, right? I told you I'm going to give you a huge gift. I'm here to deliver it to you. Qin Nan was startled. Senior Spirit of the Celestial Pole List? Ugh, Senior, Fenghua only said it for fun. You've already helped me so much, there's no need for a huge gift. Qin Nan immediately transmitted his voice. However, before he could finish, the mark of the Heaven Highness ranking on the back of his hand began to burn. Following it, the voice of the Spirit of the Celestial Pole List appeared in his divine sense once again, but its tone was stern and imperious. Fellow cultivators on the Heaven Highness ranking, due to certain reasons, a certain cultivator's ranking on the Heaven Highness ranking has changed. Now I've changed it, and I'm here to inform everyone. Chapter 24:16. Qin Nan's eyes widened. He wondered if he had heard it wrong. 9th on the Heaven Pole leaderboard? Since when was he ranked 9th? Was this the Spirit of the Celestial Pole List's gift to him? All of a sudden, a bad feeling rose in his heart, causing him to scan his surroundings. As if to confirm his premonition, an unprecedented scene appeared in the land of sacred change. The rumbling sound that filled the sky suddenly stopped, leaving only the sound of a strong wind blowing past. All the cultivators, including Tsang, Zhou Di, and the other peerless geniuses, stopped in their tracks. Their faces, without exception, were filled with shock. The situation lasted for a few breaths' time before it was completely broken. F***K. Are you kidding me? 9th on the Heaven Pole leaderboard. He's the 9th on the Heaven Pole leaderboard. Lin Xiaoji? Who is this Lin Xiaoji? Why haven't I heard of him before? He's only a peak ruler, but he already has such strength? The land of sacred change was in an uproar. The top 10 on the Heaven Pole leaderboard were the top 10 celestial venerables of the primary upper realm. However, someone had become one of the top 10 celestial venerables with a peak ruler cultivation. Tsang, Zhou Di, Huang Fuju, and Yi Zhaoxian were 11 ranks lower than Lin Xiaoji. After entering the Heaven Pole leaderboard, the higher one's rank was, the harder it was to improve. Sometimes it was just a single rank. The difference in strength between the two was like heaven and earth. In other words, Tsang, Zhou Di, and the others, who were like gods in their hearts, were a far cry from the mysterious Lin Xiaoji. However, the land of sacred change was not the only place that was in an uproar. The news passed down by the Spirit of the Celestial Pole List was not only targeted at the rulers of the land of sacred change. The top 150 celestial venerables also received the news almost instantly. Through the mouth of the heavenly venerate, this piece of news was like a rare storm. It swept through the entire primary upper realm at an astonishing speed. Every cultivator, from the celestial venerables to the heaven immortals, was shocked. 9th on the Heaven's Pole List? Who the hell is this kid? I have an impression of this person. About 30 years ago, he was only ranked around 200 on the Heaven's Pole ranking. Now, in just 30 years, he had actually soared to the 9th place? What kind of fortuitous encounter did he have in these 30 years to be able to reach such a level? F***CK. Is there really no mistake? Hiss, if that's the case, then wouldn't this child be the number 1 genius of the primary upper realm? I really didn't expect that such a terrifying genius was actually hidden in the primary upper realm. I can't help but wonder how Tsang, Zhou Di, and the rest of the geniuses will react when they learn the news. Almost all the cultivators in the primary upper realm, who were paying attention to the situation in the land of sacred change, were in an uproar. Almost instantly, all the major forces and leaders mobilized their enormous forces to search for anything related to Lin Xiaoji. As for those who knew Lin Xiaoji, such as Empyrean Long Ruo, Empyrean Yen, and Empyrean Jianhe, the former had mixed feelings and were pleasantly surprised, while the latter felt a faintly discernible sense of fear. At this moment in the Heavens Pole leaderboard, as the culprit behind all of this, the spirit of the celestial pole list was now full of smiles. Especially when he thought of the various upheavals in the outside world, the reactions of various parties, and so on, the smile on his face became even more uncontrollable. Brother Tian, is it appropriate for you to do this? With what you've done, little friend Lin has instantly become the target of public criticism. Tsang, Zhou and the rest will definitely target little friend Lin. At this moment, Empyrean Zi Hao sent him a divine will, fuming with anger. Old Purple, what are you so anxious about? Think about it carefully. This kid inherited the great harmonization heavenly art created by Moon Whisper, and has also cultivated here for more than 20 years. His battle strength has long been terrifying. If he can't even deal with this, then how can he become a great talent in the future? Young people should be given more chances. A little pressure. The spirit of the celestial pole list said. Even if that's the case, aren't you going overboard? Don't you know how to make Lin Xiaoji 10th on the Heavens Pole leaderboard? Now that you've made him 9th and pushed me to 10th, you've made a bunch of Empyreans come to ask me if I was defeated by this Lin Xiaoji. Empyrean Zi Hao's resentment soared to the heavens. The spirit of the celestial pole list was stunned for a moment. After all this time, this old man wasn't fighting for justice for Lin Xiaoji. TSK, can't you just admit it openly? I still have things to do, don't look for me. The spirit of the celestial pole list rolled its eyes and decisively sealed off everything around it, preventing the divine will from transmitting over. Lin Xiaoji, oh Lin Xiaoji, I've given you such a big gift. You mustn't disappoint me. The corners of the spirit of the celestial pole list's mouth curled up once again. At the same time, in the great Empyrean battlefield, the land of sacred change. What the F***ck? Little brother Lin Lao? Heart Ruozhu, who was fighting with Huang Fuju, couldn't help but curse. His gaze immediately swept in all directions. After a while, he discovered Lin Xiaoji's figure behind many cultivators. Little brother Lin Lao, what's going on with you? What have you experienced in the past 20 years? What kind of fortuitous encounter did you have? How did your battle strength soar so quickly? Heart Ruozhu immediately asked in one breath. He wasn't the only one. Ji Xian, Gu Fei, and ancestor Mingchu also quickly looked at Lin Xiaoji after coming to their senses. What the F***ck? Little brother Lin, what's going on? Boss, you're not being kind. Your battle strength has soared to such an extent, but you've been hiding it from us all this time. Ji Xian and Gu Fei were both surprised and delighted. Qin Nan? What's going on? How did you reach 9th on the celestial pole list? Ancestor Mingchu was full of doubts. Even if Qin Nan was so strong, due to the space-time rules, it was impossible for Qin Nan to openly reach the top of the list and become famous in the entire primary upper realm. After all, they had never heard of a peerless genius like Lin Xiaoji in the future. Wait, don't come over to me, and don't look at me. Qin Nan was shocked when he saw the four of them flying over and hurriedly stopped them. This matter isn't what you think. In the past 20 years, I've been in seclusion and have never fought with anyone. It's just that a while ago, the seniors on the celestial pole list promised to give me a big gift, but I didn't expect. When Qin Nan said this, the corners of his mouth couldn't help but twitch. He really didn't expect that the spirit of the celestial pole list would do such a thing. So that's how it is. Ha 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 ha, you've been cheated badly by the spirit of the celestial pole list this time. Heart Raju laughed loudly, his face full of schadenfreude. After all this time, so that's how it is. Gu Fei and Ji Xian were disappointed. It seemed that they had been excited for nothing. In short, don't bother with me for now. Don't tell anyone that I'm Lin Xiaoji, Qin Nan said with a bitter smile. There was no turning back now that things had come to this. However, Qin Nan was relieved that not many people in the primary upper realm knew who he was. As long as the cultivators in the land of the sacred change didn't know who Lin Xiaoji was, they would surely focus on competing for the Heaven Highness fruits again. They wouldn't. As Qin Nan was having this thought, something unexpected happened again. Once again, the mark on the back of his hand began to shine brightly. A huge vortex appeared above his head all of a sudden. A strong and pure force seemed to have traveled across time and space to strengthen his body, resulting in the cries of dragons in the surroundings. Even though he already possessed the flesh of origin, he still benefited greatly from the process. Following it, the imperious voice of the spirit of the celestial pole list echoed above the land of the sacred change. Cultivator Lin Xiaoji, I've gotten your ranking wrong. Please don't blame me for it. Now, consider the upper elemental energy I'm giving you as a small token of my appreciation. The entire land of the sacred change fell silent once again. Qin Nan's figure stiffened. He did not expect the spirit of the celestial pole list to have such a trick up its sleeve. Qin Nan immediately sensed countless gazes looking at him from all directions. The gazes included Tsang, Zhou Di, Huang Fuju, Yi Zhaoxian, and the rest of the exceptional geniuses. Cough, 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 fellow cultivators, if I tell you that a senior of the heaven-level leaderboard is just joking with you, will you believe me? Qin Nan forced a smile on his face. It's him, he's Lin Xiaoji. Gasp. Did I just stand beside the 9th-ranked cultivator of the heaven-level leaderboard? As expected of the 9th-ranked cultivator of the heaven-level leaderboard, I can't even sense his aura. However, Qin Nan's words were ignored by all the cultivators present. All kinds of voices were heard once again. Not only that, but the hundreds of rulers, including some geniuses, who were on the way to the 4th celestial venerate tree with Qin Nan as the starting point, dispersed in an instant. No matter how bold they would not dare to block the path of the 9th-ranked cultivator of the heaven-level leaderboard. Their hearts were filled with the joy of surviving a calamity, and they were extremely grateful to the spirit of the celestial pole list. If the spirit of the celestial pole list had not discovered this problem in time, they would not even know how they had died. Well, everyone, please believe me. I'm really not that strong. Qin Nan could not help but rub his forehead as he spoke. Even he could not find the words to continue. Who would they believe between him and the heaven-level leaderboard? Good, very good. As expected, the martial Tao of our great upper realm is extraordinarily flourishing and prosperous now. I never thought that a peerless genius like you would appear in the great upper realm. At that instant, Huang Fuju collected his thoughts. His demonic eyes stared at Qin Nan with an excited look. Huang Fuju? What are you doing? Calm down. Qin Nan immediately guessed what was going on and hurriedly stopped him. Today, I'll show you what kind of heaven-defying means you have. Huang Fuju did not wait for Qin Nan to finish speaking. After saying that, he burst forth with an astonishing speed and rushed in front of Qin Nan in the blink of an eye, throwing out a punch. Countless wails immediately rang out from all directions. It was as if an army of vengeful ghosts had been wronged and were charging toward Qin Nan. Qin Nan had no choice but to retaliate with a punch when he saw this. The purest power burst forth and annihilated them into pieces. The great demon descends. Huang Fuju let out a roar. Wisps of demonic intent surged in all directions. Many rulers of Tao sharply noticed that the force that Qin Nan had unleashed with his punch was not the force of rules, nor was it any martial intent. It was a magical force that they had never seen or heard of before. This was especially true of Tsang. His eyes immediately began to shine brightly. This power gave him a sense of familiarity. It reminded him of the power of origin. Why would the man have the origin force? As the thought crossed Song's mind, he glanced at Zhou Di and Yi Zhaoxian. The latter was looking at him too. Song said with a calm smile, "I don't think there's any need to continue fighting, right? I'm not trying to boast, but even though you two have achieved a great breakthrough, it's impossible for you to kill me with my capabilities." Besides, Song added after a slight pause, "now that such a formidable person has shown up, don't you want to witness his strength?" Zhoudi's lips curled upward. He said, "Isn't that obvious? How can we not witness his strength?" Following this, Zhoudi's figure turned into a brilliant sacred ray heading in Qin Nan's direction. Seeing this, Song and Yi Zhaoxian moved at the same time. Holy crap! Qin Nan was aware of their presence. He immediately cursed in his heart after taking a glimpse. The four supreme heavenly venerables of the later generations were all joining forces to attack him now? Look! Song, Zhou Di, Huang Fuju, and Yi Zhaoxian are attacking Lin Xiaoji at the same time. The hearts of the cultivators shuddered. Some of the cultivators even forgot that they were going to claim the Heaven Highness fruit. They never thought the four exceptional geniuses would team up one day to attack someone with the same cultivation. Who would emerge victorious in such a battle? Among the crowd, Gu Fei, Ji Xian, and ancestor Mingqiu all shivered when they saw this scene. Even though they were not Qin Nan, they could easily imagine how Qin Nan was feeling and how much pressure he was under. Brother Ji Xian and Senior Mingqiu, what should we do? Should we go and help? Gu Fei swallowed his saliva and asked in a stutter. Well, we should ask Senior Mingqiu, Ji Xian stammered too. Chapter 24:17. Oh my, Brother Lin is going against the heavens. On the other side, the heart ruler clicked his tongue. Even with his current strength, the thought of facing the four of them at the same time was enough to make him shudder. Should I go and help? However, the heart ruler was a loyal person. He soon had the thought. Ugh, let's wait and see. That old man might be a little tricky, but he wouldn't go so far as to push Brother Lin to his death. It makes sense to give him the 9th rank of the Heavens Pole ranking. The heart ruler soon convinced himself. Besides, the four of them would not kill Lin Xiaoji once they realized that he had the strength of the 9th rank of the Heavens Pole ranking. They would at most beat him half to death. It would not be too late for him to make a move then. Meanwhile, Song, Zhou Di, and Yi Zhaoxian had arrived in front of Qin Nan. Vast Star Battle Art. Song was the first to make his move. He threw a palm forward, unleashing a mysterious power. At that instant, the rift above Qin Nan instantly turned pitch black, as countless stars appeared from it. Each of the stars unleashed a shocking aura that surged downward. Unfettered sword art. Yi Zhaoxian's figure flickered and turned into countless afterimages. The sword in his hand clearly did not move in the slightest, nor did it slash out in the slightest. However, sword flowers appeared in all directions on their own. The starlight above and the demonic intent below were extremely dazzling. Fist of 10,000 Destruction. Zhoudi's figure emitted a sacred glow as an impenetrable sacred intent spread into the surroundings. In addition to that, he unleashed a shocking speed as he threw a punch at Qin Nan's front while stepping on the ground with his sword. The destructive aura was like the rules of the rift. It had already suppressed Qin Nan's figure before it could fully unleash its power. K me. Qin Nan could not help but curse in his heart. Are you kidding me? You guys are the future 4 great supreme Empyreans. Not only are you guys joining forces to attack, you're even cooperating with each other? What a terrifying killing trap! Song and the other 3 are really not ordinary terrifying. They are clearly in a hostile relationship, but in an instant, they are able to form such perfect cooperation and unleash their killing power to the extreme. I'm afraid that even an ordinary heavenly venerate powerhouse wouldn't be able to withstand such a situation. The cultivators nearby were dumbfounded. Their hearts were trembling in fear. Formless divine diagram. In the time it took for a spark to fly off a piece of flint, Qin Nan had no choice but to make a move. With his entire body as the center, countless miraculous divine inscriptions spread out in all directions with lightning speed, and in the blink of an eye, they covered an area of tens of thousands of kilometers. The will of the arts of Tao seeking burst out simultaneously to resist the demonic will below and the light of the stars above. Whoosh! Qin Nan made his move too. He shattered the sword flowers with a wave of his hand before clenching his fist and colliding with Zhou Di's fist. Bang! Following a shocking explosion, strong gusts of wind surged in all directions. Qin Nan and Zhou Di were both knocked 5 steps backward before they could stabilize their figures. Zhou Di's eyes flickered with astonishment. In addition to him, Song, Huang Fuju, and Yi Zhaoxian reacted the same way too. They were well aware of how terrifying the power of the impenetrable sacred flesh was. Even though Zhou Di did not use his full strength in the punch, it was at least 60% of it. They would not dare to take it head-on if they were in Zhou Di's shoes. As I thought. Qin Nan's eyes flickered. Among the people present, other than Zhou Di, he understood the impenetrable saint physique the best. As such, Qin Nan was well aware of how powerful Zhou Di's punch was. However, when he was refining the flesh of origin, he keenly noticed that the pure power of the flesh of origin was shocking too. In addition to it, the flesh of origin also had a great feature. It was able to convert the power of the attacks into its own power. In other words, the stronger Zhou Di's attack was, the stronger the pure power of his flesh of origin would be. That being said, there was a limit to it too. If Zhou Di's strength exceeded the limit, Qin Nan would not be able to convert his flesh of origin. However, it was only year 2031 of the sacred sky calendar. Zhou Di had yet to enter the heaven peak ranking to cultivate in seclusion. He had yet to evolve his flesh of eternity. In the blink of an eye, Song, Zhou Di, Huang Fuju, and Yi Zhaoxian reacted almost instantly. They immediately made their moves. Heaven-devouring star art. Sacred palace of 10,000 laws pilgrimage. Ancient demon bloodthirst art. Mystical and mystical Teia sword. The 4 supreme highnesses gradually displayed their terrifying strength. In less than a breath's time, they had performed thousands of hand seals and executed a series of heaven highness arts to form a series of deadly traps looming over Qin Nan. Qin Nan's eyes widened. He immediately activated the phaseless godly pattern and executed the arts of Tao seeking to combine them. However, it was nowhere enough to stop them. He even unleashed the power of his will, which turned into a ray of light encapsulating the area within 100,000 li to disrupt the coordination between the cultivators. In addition to that, Qin Nan's eyes emitted a brilliant glow that scanned the surroundings. His figure turned into a series of afterimages as he fired a series of powerful blows. Bang bang bang! A series of explosions took place. The area within a few 10,000 li from the 5 supreme highnesses, including the ground and the rift, shattered simultaneously. The rules of cultivation were shattered into nothingness and chaos. In addition to it, the shock waves produced by each clash were utterly terrifying. Even the rulers of Tao far away from the 5 supreme highnesses could feel a chill running down their spines. If they were caught in the shock waves, they would be crushed into pieces in less than a breath's time. At this moment, a mysterious symbol suddenly appeared in the eyes of Yi Zhaoxian, who had been using his sword technique. A mysterious aura was emitted from his body. Change. Yi Zhaoxian withdrew his sword intent and shoved his hand forward. An invisible and mysterious force instantly swept out and enveloped the 5 of them. Is that? Qin Nan's primary flesh sharply noticed the force. It felt extremely familiar to him. Following it, he felt his body shuddering as the scenery in front of him changed all of a sudden. Huang Fu-ju was no longer in front of him, he was behind him. Song was no longer on his left, he was on his right. Zhou Di had also moved to his left from his right. The origin energy in his body immediately sped up as an extremely strange feeling of disharmony rose from the bottom of his heart. At the same time, Huang Fu-ju and Song executed their outstanding attacks to attack Qin Nan from the back and right respectively. Qin Nan subconsciously raised his hands and activated the essence of 10 arts of Tao seeking. He was trying to form 2 giant nets to trap the 2 Supreme Highnesses and slow them down temporarily. However, it was as if Huang Fu-ju and Song had already seen through it. Before the net was formed, they executed another technique to shatter it into pieces. Qin Nan frowned. Could they see through the future? In the blink of an eye, Huang Fu-ju and Song's heaven-defying killer moves reached them. Sacred Palace of the Heavens and Earth. In addition to it, a magnificent, illusionary palace appeared and suppressed Qin Nan as if it had traveled a great distance. Wisps of sealing force surged at Qin Nan like surging waves, suppressing the pure force in his body. The person was none other than Zhou Di, burying the immortal with a sword. On top of that, Yi Zhaoxian accumulated a shocking sword intent, which turned into an indescribable sword glow slashing at Qin Nan. Qin Nan was defeated in a single move. The attacks from the 4 Supreme Highnesses immediately forced Qin Nan into a tight spot. Crap! The rest of the rulers of Tao Seeking had yet to figure out what was going on, but the ruler of Tao Seeking was startled when he realized what was going on. Even if Qin Nan managed to survive the trap, something even scarier would be coming at him in the next moment. It would continue like this, not giving Qin Nan any chance to catch his breath until Qin Nan was severely injured and immobilized. It was the end. If he could not turn the tables around as the thought crossed his mind, Qin Nan's eyes were engulfed in white flames as a magical symbol appeared on his forehead. Flesh of origin, trembling of the heavens and earth. Qin Nan's aura suddenly became imperious, as if he had become the ruler of the heavens and earth, standing above every living thing. Lightning punishment, cremation, ice seal. Qin Nan uttered 6 words. At that instant a shocking sight took place. With Qin Nan at the center, a terrifying force burst out from the area within a few 10,000 li, which turned into shocking lightning, scorching flames, and icy snow pouring down from the 9 heavens. Bang bang bang! The sacred palace trapping Qin Nan was instantly shattered into pieces. In addition to it, the terrifying trap that Qin Nan had triggered had dragged all 4 of them into it. He's able to become the ruler of the heavens and earth and command the power of the heavens and earth? Song, Zhou Di, Huang Fu-ju, and Yi Zhaoxian were astounded when they realized what was going on. However, their reactions were surprisingly quick. They collected their thoughts in less than a breath's time and exchanged glances with one another. They immediately understood each other's thoughts. The 4's figures suddenly changed, switching from offense to defense, blocking the lightning, fire, and snow that filled the sky. It was also at this moment that the mysterious symbol appeared in Yi Zhaoxian's eyes once again. She slapped her palm forward. However, the moment she shoved her hand forward, Qin Nan's figure vanished into thin air and reappeared 10,000 li away. He can sense the power of time and space? Yi Zhaoxian was astounded. The move he had just executed was called time reversal. That being said, with his current cultivation, it was impossible for him to reverse the time and space of the entire primary upper realm. He could only reverse the time and space within 10,000 li and return it to 20 breaths ago. However, the power of time and space was invisible and intangible. Regardless of whether it was divine sense or eye technique, they could only sense a mysterious power appearing in the area, but they could not clearly sense how large the area this power covered. Over the years, he had defeated many experts with the same move. That being said, the move was not undefeatable. It could still be seen through, but Tsang, Zhou Di, and Huang Fu-ju only managed to figure it out after fighting him 5 times. Tsang, Zhou Di, and Huang Fu-ju immediately gave up on the thought when they realized the same thing. Who would have thought that the primary upper realm would have such an insane genius like you? I would like to ask, what kind of flesh do you have now? Why haven't I seen it before? Zhou Di stared at Qin Nan. Qin Nan's lips twisted. He never thought he would be called a maniac by his past life one day. Qin Nan was about to speak when he saw Zhou Di's aura skyrocketing. The will of the impenetrable flesh surged into the surroundings like an unprecedented storm. If you aren't willing to tell me, I'll have to sense it myself, Zhou Di said. His words were thunderous. At this moment, his body underwent an earth-shattering change. Countless white lines started from his feet and spread upwards until they reached the center of his eyebrows. A brilliant sacred glow burst out from his back and lit up the surroundings. A faint, indestructible will of eternity appeared between the heavens and earth. Tsang, Huang Fu-ju, and Yi Zhaoxian's eyes flickered with astonishment. Did Zhou Di's impenetrable flesh have a breakthrough? He has refined the indestructible will of eternity? Qin Nan was startled too. Cultivator Lin, it's half of the indestructible flesh of eternity. It's my first time using my full strength in a battle after spending so much effort to achieve the breakthrough. Please enlighten me, Zhou Di said with an excited look. Bang! Following it, his figure sprang toward Qin Nan at an unbelievable speed like a peerless sword. A shocking pressure crushed onto Qin Nan's figure. Zhou Di, calm down. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.